What about switching the mayor to Barbara? John, were you on the sidelines again?
No, I wasn't. I was at the 50. You know what? I wish I was on the sidelines.
Well, wasn't it great, Alabama?
And they only go down behind us. So they always win the game.
Beautiful. Oh, no.
The mics for the podium and the attorney is working up there.
Absolutely not. No, no. Recycling was always in the little bin. But you don't mix your garbage with that.
They was
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would ask that very tall gentleman right there after the meeting, the gentleman by the camera, Christian, he'll confirm that. But for sure, garbage and recycling is separate.
I wouldn't have turned them off, 'cause like I said,
You should have a separate container.
what happened is,
Okay.
Hello? All right, we're going to get started. Sorry for that delay.
Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the regular commission meeting for the Village of Biscayne Park, Tuesday, October 7, 2014. It's 8 after 7. Roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Coviello.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Jonas.
yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
And Commissioner Watts called us to say that she's ill and could not make it.
Okay, thank you. Then everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. Our first item of business is we have 3 presentations. The first is a proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We have a special guest, Barbara Plitzka. She's the Senior Marketing Manager for North Shore Medical Center. So Barbara, if you'd like to come up and...
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to Biscayne.
Barbara, if you want to, if you don't mind just using the microphone, thank you.
Can I just take it off?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to come out to Biscayne Park this evening and be here at the meeting. We are in your community. We've been here for over 60 years, and I just wanted to stop by this evening, and we have wonderful programs for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We opened a Comprehensive Breast Institute last year. We just celebrated our first year anniversary. We've got many things going on for the month of October. We have a breast cancer lecture. And also, we have a great price on cash price for screening mammograms, $60. It includes the radiology reading feed as well. So, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And we have a proclamation for you. I, David Coviello, Mayor of the Village of Biscayne Park, joined by the entire commission, do hereby join the nation in proclaiming October 2014 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We encourage all citizens to join in activities that will increase awareness of what Americans can do to Prevent and Control Breast Cancer, dated the 7th day of October 2014. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Shalice?
Okay, our second item is October 2014 is also Anti-Bullying Month, and we have our resident Joe Chow here to make a presentation.
Well, I had a fantastically short PowerPoint presentation, but due to technical difficulties, we couldn't produce it. So I have printouts. I promise it'll be a short presentation. All my presentations are short.
Thank you, sir.
Some of you may not know that October is also National Bully Prevention Awareness Month in the entire United States. And what I wanted to do is give a little presentation about a program that my school and also a partner school of mine, Miami Capoeira Solalua, are partnering, and we're spreading through all the schools that we are able to, and also to the different villages. On the first page, you can see it's called 1 Million Strong. This is a national program by Hyperbully Defense, and they're trying to raise 1 million signatures and people to take sort of like a pledge to help stop bullying. Not the typical stuff where you say, oh, just report things like you see on TV. We actually have 10 steps. 10 steps that, as you can see over there, I have a banner. And those are 10 steps for teenagers. I also have one for children. And I wanted to see if it's possible, if I could do some free bully workshops every Saturday, different age groups, a younger age group and a teenage age group. Free of charge, of course. To raise awareness and convince the children how they should be acting, how they should try to stop bullying. On the first page, you'll see that it shows the actual logo, the End Bullying Change Your Life, which is the national one. If you flip over, there's some statistics. Sorry I couldn't project it so you guys can see it, but as many as 160,000 students stay home on any given day because they're afraid of being bullied. 1 in 10 drop out of school due to repetitive bullying. There are 4 types of bullying. There's the physical one, which is the one everyone's aware of, where they beat you up after school. There's the social one, which is telling other kids not to be your friends, excluding others, and spreading rumors. A third one is the verbal, where you start using words, hurting words. You're fat, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. And of course, now the latest one in the past 10 years is cyberbullying. If you look at the following page, does anybody remember this saying? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, that's completely false. Words hurt. And words scar people for life. Now, most bullying, about 80% of it is verbal. It's not physical. Only 20% is physical. It usually starts at being verbal, and it may escalate later on as being physical. Now, some examples would be mean practical jokes. Everyone remember that one here says kick here, they put it on the back of your shirt? And that's okay once or twice, but when everyone's going around smacking you in the back, that's a mean practical joke. Saying, hurtful things about other people. When 2 people stand there and you see that person, I heard she's this, that, and the other thing. Spreading rumors is really damaging, especially for girls. And then of course, the one everyone is familiar with is physically hurting somebody. But nowadays, they actually videotape it on their phone and post it on Facebook. Because I've seen plenty of them, and it's just disgusting where our kids are going to nowadays. If you flip over, I have a little a page on some specific statistics on cyberbullying facts. The average cyberbully starts at age 9. That was a shocker for me. But I guess everyone has an iPad now, even 2-year-olds. So I can see where that's going. 42% of the kids have been bullied online. 21% have received threatening messages via email or otherwise, and 58% have not told an adult about it. So they're keeping it to themselves. The next page shows a picture of a man who's been violently beaten. I didn't want to portray a child there. But imagine if your child, brother, friend, or significant other came home like this every week. What would you do? What could you do? Well, we came up, and if some people say, well, he's not man enough to take it. He should be man and take it. If you turn over the next page, there's some pictures of some children, unfortunately, who committed suicide because of being bullied. That's one I was not sure about posting, and I'm glad I didn't have it. But it's, you look at it, and my arms already have goose flesh. These children actually got to the point where one of them stepped in front of a tractor trailer because he was being bullied all the time. Another one walked out in front of a bus. And half of these children are like 13, 14 years old only. That's horrible. Now, you have three choices to dealing with bullies. One, you ignore it. That's what they tell you in school. Oh, ignore them, ignore them. That works for a short time. The next one is run from it. Unfortunately, when you run from it long enough, you end up like these children. The only way they can run out of it is by ending their lives. And the third one is end it. Now, there's different ways of ending it. My partnering school and myself came up with 10 based for smaller kids and 10 based for teenagers. I call it 10 ways, 10 days. For the children, the first one is join our team and sign the pledge banner, which I hope you guys can set an example by going over there and signing the pledge banner over there. The second one is if you're going to join a martial arts school, join a martial arts school that has a bullying program. Not all martial arts schools have those. They have to be certified. The third one is say encouraging comments to other kids even if they aren't your friends. The fourth one will be make a pact with your friends to watch out for bullying and help each other. Fifth is make friends with someone who is shy or being bullied. 6, encourage others to make friends with someone who's being bullied. Pick someone who is shy or being bullied to be part of your team. Stand up to bullies to stop making fun of someone. When I mean stand up, I don't mean say, hey, you stop it, because it's just going to escalate to violence. I read an article of Psychology Today that shaming bullies works better. If 2 or 3 of you who are part of a team see a boy or a girl being bullied, they're usually loners, and that's the reason why the bullies go to them, because they're victims, they're alone, they have no one to protect them. And you start saying, leave him alone, you're bullying, and they just start saying it loud, eventually the bully will stop because it's no longer fun to poke fun at that child. It's no longer easy. As our chief knows, criminals look for easy targets. Well, bullies are the same way. They look for easy target. The little child who eats lunch alone, the one who looks different, the one who has a handicap, the one who has a funny accent, the one who has no friends. And that's the one they get when no one else is looking, to make themselves look strong. They pick on these little kids. Another way is stand up to bullies. Oh yeah, I did that one already. Make friends with someone with a disability. Everybody has a friend who has a disability, right? I know I do. Make friends, have your teacher take pictures of your team with your new friends, create a post-it, hang it in the classroom. With teenagers, it would be put it on social media, because that's what they do. They Instagram everything. And I would, like I said, I would love this if we could actually make a proclamation to make October National Bully Prevention Awareness Month, like it is in the rest of the country. And I hope you guys would agree with me and do something like that. And if we can start doing the workshop starting this Saturday, that would be great. Thank you.
Joe, thank you very much. There's a resolution tonight on the agenda, correct?
Yes, item
Okay.
8D recognizes October 2014 as Anti-Bullying Awareness Month.
Okay, and you'll coordinate with Joe to set those programs up. Joe, thank you for not only this, but everything you do for the village and the community.
Can I ask one favor?
Sure,
Could you guys sign the banner?
we will, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Can you guys sign the banner? Can I count on you guys to make the pledge and sign the banner? I left a bunch of Sharpies right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, again,
And
appreciate
Shalisa
that.
will work with the kids who come here after school, the teenagers, and have them sign it throughout the week.
Okay, great, great,
Yep.
great. Well, we should set an example with those two first.
Absolutely.
All righty, resident recognitions. It's a couple surprises here.
Mayor and Commissioners, staff, residents, we have a couple surprise recognitions tonight. We've been going through a lot of issues lately here in the village, but we always work as staff to bring everyone together. And 2 residents stick out to us for very different reasons. So I'm going to first ask Rosemary to come up. Please. Yeah, I have a job for you to do. This certificate of appreciation is granted to you, Rosemary, in appreciation of your thoughtful and sweet contributions to our meetings and events. And it's not just the apple fritters and the cakes and those type of things. She was here for the week before Shalisa started her job because she was just mortified that we would bring a new staff member in and the kitchen wasn't cleaned yet. And she stayed on the extra week afterwards, and then she moved over to our Public Works building. She's always looking out for us from the staff perspective, and we really appreciate it. And don't take the dish towels. Thank you. And I have one more recognition. This person, there's a specific recognition in here, but this person is one of my go-to people if I need information or history. Often comes into Village Hall to help us out. But what a lot of people don't know is that she has missed probably one or two commission meetings since 1979. So we have the perfect, in quotes, attendance award for Linda Dillon tonight. It says, perfect, in quotes, attendance award is hereby granted to Linda Dillon in recognition of your regular attendance at commission meetings from 1979 to the current. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, thank you. All right, Madam Manager, do we have any additions, deletions, or withdrawals?
The All Aboard Florida group has asked us to defer 8C, the resolution in support of their program, to a future meeting. I'd like to add a small discussion about our building inspectors to village manager's report and provide an update on the budget and the work for the bathroom renovation project under village manager report. Also, when Commissioner Watts called in sick, she asked that we defer item 12B.
Okay, and 12B is the discussion of the charter amendment, correct? Regarding
Correct.
annexation? Okay.
Correct.
All right, any other items to be withdrawn from the commission? No? All right, we'll open it up to public comment. If you would state your name and address for the record.
Barbara Kuehl, 111th Street. I see Waste Pro is here. And this evening I came home and my garbage hadn't been picked up, so I emailed using the website, and I don't know, within 15 minutes I had an answer, and I assume they still hadn't picked it up, but I assume they're just running late. So that was a nice response. And Linda Dillon and Rosemary both contribute a lot to this community, and it's very nice that they've been recognized. And I hate to change the mood, but one thing that I wanted to discuss is the annual review, the thing that's on the agenda for the review of the village attorney. I think this is a waste of time. I think commissioners who are dealing with the attorney, if they have an issue, should be asking the attorney to address it. If it's not taken care of, it should come at the commission meeting. And it should be out in the open immediately, not waiting 4 years because there's some issue that happened in the past. The attorney, I would assume, is mostly here for our village manager and the staff. If the village manager is having problems with the attorney, then she should be either discussing it with Mr. Hearn, trying to resolve it. If that doesn't work, bring it forth at the commission meetings. Having a review when no one else does this in the same type of situation that we have our attorney hired seems like just an absolute waste of time. This is something that should be an ongoing thing, and I don't think anyone, there's a little tiny community, you all have access to our attorney, you deal with him all the time. You don't need a piece of paper with a million questions and goals for next year to decide whether or not you're having an issue. So I'd like to see you decide not to pursue that. You know, it's interesting because the presentation about bullying, it made me think about what's going on in this neighborhood on both sides. I've never seen it so contentious. Just when things we thought were all going to start working more smoothly, it seems like we are in a bullying mode. Anybody that disagrees with somebody else gets ridiculed, whether it's online, at meetings, privately, through emails. And it's really, I think this is why I know people on my block said they're not coming anymore. They're not going to have that type of attitude aimed at them. The recognition for residents was very nice. I looked back through our agenda since January, and we've had about 25 proclamations, letters of endorsement, whatever you can name. And yet, 4 employees that had a total of over 60 years with this village were not mentioned at a commission meeting, were not given any type of special recognition for this community. Nothing was brought forth from the village manager, and even when some residents, because a week before the men were supposed to leave, decided that they'd like to make a lunch for the men, that was ridiculed. There was some ulterior motive that it was some kind of a political display, a childish, you name it. I don't even want to go through the things that we were called. And I can't believe you could turn something as heartfelt as the luncheon was for the men into something ugly and manipulative. This was not done to feed the village. This was done as a gesture for the men to show our appreciation. We said we would provide lunch. We didn't know even how much food we were going to have. And as always, the residents came out in force, and people brought things. And we not only fed the men, but all of the village employees, and even 3 of the Waste Pro people that were there, we offered them lunch. So I think you should think about the way you portray other people sometimes. And I think these men deserved more than just, I don't know what you had because I wasn't invited. Nobody that I know, residents weren't invited. It was just the commissioners. And I think people kept asking me, isn't something going to be done for the men? And that's why we had the lunch. And the other thing too, I'm going to end this, but the men should have been given a severance package. I think the ending was very poor. And if you wanted to try to bridge the people that you alienated through this whole process, this would have been an excellent way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Janie Anderson, 11th Place, 119th Street. I too have to compliment, and as everybody knows, I was not in favor of outsourcing, but I have to say, you guys have really made the effort. When the glitches have been there, and I have to share this story. Last week, the first day, we didn't get the garbage picked up, and Bob saw the truck down the street and went and said something to them. They came back right away, and they said what they had done. An employee showed some initiative, although it didn't quite work, put little stickies on the mailboxes of the people who were to get side and backyard pickup. Well, of course, we didn't know what the sticky was for, so we took sticky off the mailbox. But you know what? It showed initiative, and that's all you can ask. They're trying. So we'll move forward, and we'll make it work. I, too, have to, Linda and Rosemary, you guys are amazing. I mean, that's the least you deserve, is a proclamation like that. I, too, have to comment on the whole attorney evaluation thing. I feel like every one of our employees have been through so much in this last year. And we have some absolutely wonderful new hires. Residents are real happy with the hires. If we're going to move forward, it's got to start with you guys moving forward. If there hasn't been a need for an attorney evaluation in 15 years, if Mr. Hearn is just coming off a unanimous vote of confidence, surely now's the time for the healing. Now's the time to ratchet down the emotion. And particularly, I couldn't quite understand, our manager, who really has to interact with everyone, who interacts with boards, who really affects where we go, is evaluated by you guys. But the proposal includes, for Mr. Hearn, evaluations from the manager and boards. And I really respectfully ask you guys, let's sit on this for a while. Let's let the healing, let's let our employees like regroup and get past the negativity and leave this alone.
All right, thank you, Janie.
Rafael Trenche, 11108 Northeast 11th Place, Biscayne Park. Okay, so the agenda item that I came to comment on was pulled, but I don't know if I'm going to be here next time around. So after what I saw take place with getting rid of, well, reducing public works, or not public works, but our own sanitation to replace it with Waste Pro. I personally got the feeling, and I would guess a lot of other people along with me, that there's a certain amount of tone deafness from the commission. So the idea of a referendum would go a long way to maybe make us think that that's not going on. Okay. I still have, you know, Waste Pro could do an awesome job for the next few years. I'm still going to have a problem with 4 working class guys getting thrown under the bus. It's that simple. Okay? And the other thing is, as far as Mr. Hearn, last time I was here, it was almost, it would have been funny if it had not been as insulting as it was. I don't think the guy needs to be evaluated. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Raphael. Milt? No? Dan?
Couple of Dan Keys. We're not discussing the charter change. I'm not in favor of a charter change to require an automatic vote for annexation issues. Regarding Waste Pro, they had a tough day today, looks like. I know on my street they did. I would just like the village, this is something I asked you know, prior to implementation, you know, was that we hold their feet to the fire with regard to the quality of the work that they do. It was a very tough day today, wet trash, lots of trash, but you know, the collection sites were kind of sloppy today on my street. Didn't go all over the village, but on my street they were kind of sloppy. And I think this is the time that maybe we do some specific evaluation of that level of quality and have a discussion with them to see whether or not it's an anomaly or something that they are assuming is a standard of service. Regarding the fee schedule ordinance, I'm in favor of the...
Dan, can you I think it'll be beneficial because I know Waste Pro is going to speak, but can you just give a little bit more detail as to what the issues were?
There were, on a couple of collection sites, there was 2 or 3 palm fronds left there. There were kind of leaves scattered about on the street and at the collection site. I mean, you know, maybe a discussion about, you know, how much, if any, you know, hopefully there's some, you know, raking of small debris that might be left behind, that sort of thing. Regarding the fee schedule, I'm in favor of the idea. Certainly will streamline the government, and that's both the asset and the not so good thing. You know, these are the fee schedule can be changed by resolution. Resolutions are pretty quick, 3 votes and you got what you want. You're raising the cost of us getting services in the community, so that those decisions shouldn't be taken lightly. And if not now, you know, sometime in the future, the idea of possibly those resolutions granting increases in fees might require a 4/5 vote instead of 3-2 situation. Something to consider. Definitely, I couldn't find it, but you know, the fee schedule should be placed online so that we can kind of add up what it might cost us to do something at our homes. I don't believe that a fee increase should ever be placed on the consent agenda. Pull it out as a separate resolution so we can see it clearly. And, you know, I'm sure there was some investigation as to the amount of fees, the dollar amount of the fees, comparing North Miami and South Miami. I'm really not so sure how they apply to our actual costs, and I'm sure that, you know, fairly sure that was put together by pulling from these other cities or other cities to get fees for ourselves. So I mean, at some point, maybe a decent evaluation, a real somewhat in-depth evaluation as to what the fees are and whether they're appropriate for our community. Regarding the train, I know we're not talking about that either, apparently, but I know the issue today was in favor of the noise reduction or safety considerations at intersections, I believe, when the train crosses. I don't know whether or not this plan takes into consideration a noise barrier installation along the routes next to residential properties. If not this one, then the one project subsequent to this, the commuter rail situation. I think this is a good thing for our region, this particular train, but it's not going to do me a darn bit of good. I have to take a car to Miami-Dade County, you know, downtown Miami to go to Orlando or Fort Lauderdale. You know, so you know, moving forward, it's, you know, it's a good thing regionally, but not for us. So we should get something out of it.
All right. You wrap it up.
Well, I did have some comments regarding the swale ordinance. I think it's generally a good idea. There are a few things that I saw on here that you know, I think need a little bit of thought, or at least having my questions answered.
That's going to come back by ordinance.
Yeah. Okay. I'll wait for that then. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Milts? No?
Hate these things. Anyway, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and fellow residents. I have a slight change to what I was going to talk about tonight, but I'd like to focus primarily on two words, because I feel that these two words are both the root of our most pressing dysfunction and possibly our answer for better relationships moving forward. And those two words are compromise and acceptance. Compromise is settlement of a dispute in which two or more sides agree to accept less than they originally wanted, and acceptance, the realization of a fact or truth, and the process of coming to terms with it. I feel we all need to consider, and I'm addressing the residents here tonight in attendance, those on the dais, and any that may be watching later from home, who do we want to be as a community moving forward? Do we want to continue to view ourselves as a fractured, disenfranchised lot, or do we want to rise above this pettiness? Are we going to continue to allow ourselves to be misled by those whose purpose is to needlessly create controversy and chaos? Again, who do we want to be? And this is something we need to focus on, because at the end of the day, it's up for us to decide our own future. Now, if any of us choose not to be involved in the discussion and the process, and during the correct time, not these patented, attempted 11th hour, after the fact, panic, knee-jerk sessions that we seem to fall into, then we have no right to complain, no right at all, and make idle threats due to our own negligence. There's no one to blame but ourselves. However, if we choose to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, then we have to be educated on the facts and get those facts from the proper source. And that's not some circulated email that goes out to only a select few under some cloak of secrecy. This is part of the problem and not part of the solution. So again, I think we just need to understand that nothing is being hidden from us. There is no great conspiracy at work here as suggested by some. But we need to be accountable for our own education. And until we're willing to do this, I fear that we're going to remain entrenched as we are and bounce from topic to topic in unnecessary conflict. So I'll leave you with this. Again, let's think about who and what we want to be moving forward.
Thank you, Milt.
Good evening, commissioners, fellow citizens, and staff members. My name is Daniel Rodriguez. I live at 890 Northeast 113th Street. I want to applaud the gentleman before me. That was very eloquently put. Many of you probably know me as a very passionate resident. Been living here since 1991. And I think as a whole, our community is relatively a really good community, a good family, and we all work together and we all live together, and we all look out for each other's safety. Now, unfortunately, my wife and I, my adolescent, were victims of a crime in Miami Shores, and the crimes seem to be progressing much more. There's been a break-in right down the street from us, 113th Street, and another one up the street from that, 114th Street. And I want to address the fact that our police officers maybe are one of the best officers I've ever come across since 1991. The way they've handled the situation with my situation, where I had to come rush from the shores to make sure that my house, my homestead was safe, within minutes they were here. I don't think any other city can claim that. But really what's causing me a lot of concern is this park. The park has become a center for adolescents that have no respect for people. The staff member that do the after sports care programs called me an SOB and taunted me to fight. I simply had picked up a ball and had told them that, hey, this was not safe, that he needed to ask the city to get some netting around, at least while he's here. And I want to applaud our city manager for handling the matter in which she did. But I think we need to take a step further. I don't think any of you would like to be called anything by any of our patrons that use our park. It's totally uncalled for. And I had a witness, which was Coach Joe. And even Coach Joe said this guy was a loose cannon. I don't want to see him back. He was here today. He was taunting me for a fight. When you call somebody a name like that, that's crossing the line. I took it up with Sheila. I spoke with her. She knows about this. And I took pictures of all the debris that they had left, the water bottles, and I said to the gentleman, wouldn't you say something to the parents? And he went on to say some things else that I don't want to repeat. He said he was going to call the police to make sure that I didn't go into the park and interrupt his practice. And he felt the safety of the children were at risk. When I am a school teacher and I'm virtuous trained, which he's probably not even virtuous trained, and he should be, by the way. That's another thing. But the fact is that I don't feel safe anymore around here. I don't feel safe walking here, driving. I had a situation that same day, which Sheila, our director, handled very well to the degree that she could. But the adolescents with their mouth, the things that we're hearing in the park today, these guys they parked their cars right next to the stop signs. The cars are not stopping because they can't see around. I took pictures of everything that I'm saying, by the way. It's an ordinance. You cannot park in the corner, and the police officers know that. The police officers went by and didn't do anything about it. Well, maybe because they're trying to respect the patrons of the park. But there's a line between being very congenial and respectful to the patrons of the park, and there's a line which they cross where there's the safety of the park and the children, right? And anyways, again, I want to thank you, all of you, for everything that you're doing for us, because it's not easy. And I mentioned to you at the breakfast, our mayor. You know, I was one of the staunch guys against the Waste Management Pro, and today I helped them because their scissors couldn't get all the debris. I think together we should grow, like the gentleman said, move on forward like a family, you know. And we try things. If they don't work, they don't work, you know, like Chuck says.
Thank you,
Fred
Dan.
Jonas, I want to thank you for reaching out to the community, whereas before I criticized that you weren't listening. And thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
And
may-
you'll contact the manager with the photos and the issues and work.
Sure,
So they
and
can-
Roxy and Chuck helped me clean out the debris. We shouldn't have to do this. That kind of coach should not be admitted here.
All right, thank you,
Hey,
Daniel.
Dan, I know we're going to talk tomorrow, but I spoke to them today and I have some updates for you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.
Tracy.
Good evening. I'll try and make it short. Tracy Trutman, 791 Northeast 116th Street. I'm actually going to change the tone a little bit here. I'm not going to talk about business as much as I'm going to talk about how we've been conducting business. I want to compliment the commission and all the staff. I've lived here also a very long time, but not quite as long as our wonderful, recognized folks here. You can do it again, that's fine. They're well-deserved. I think one of the things I've really been very grateful for is how the dais has acted. You have acted as a group. You have compromised. There's been very difficult decisions made, not very popular sometimes, but in the end, you're moving forward. And I didn't always agree with everything that you've decided, but in the end, we're constantly moving forward. We've had commissions in the past where we've just been stagnating, arguing. It's actually been an embarrassment, some of the things that went on. I just want to compliment that. Also, the city manager for the job that she's doing. I had a wonderful job talking to Christian. I don't have to call Heidi anymore. She commented earlier.
Christian.
See? And everybody, Maria and everybody, and the new police chief. We've had some great appointments. I'm not going to say your name because I'm going to do it unjustice, but I'll keep practicing. So I just want to tell the community this. I happen to agree with Milt with the issue of respect and moving forward. We all cannot get what we want all of the time. I know I haven't, and I've lost several battles that I've worked on put a lot of time on, such as the school and other issues. But in the end, we all have to live here. And the one thing I've really liked about living here is despite everything, whether I've agreed or disagreed with my neighbors, we end up coming out at night. So I'm going to propose something else. I know we have a lot of food and tunes, but I'm asking everybody to please reach out to your neighbors. If you haven't already, we have some elderly here that could use some help. We've got some folks around here, so I'd like to see some positive things about our community. Thank you very much.
Tracy, thank you. All right, any other public comment?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Andrew Olis, 11935 Northeast 5th Avenue, Biscayne Park. Number one, I just have bullet points here. I'll be real fast. Keep moving forward on the annexation. You guys were elected on that platform. I said it before in writing. People read it in the blog. That's my feeling. Move forward. That's all I'm going to say about that topic. We spent a lot of time on the topic of the swales and driveways. I'm on the code review board. One of the members' open meetings. People should come to it if they have any comments or suggestions while we're doing those. It'll save time here, because then if we have discussed it here, then maybe we can incorporate some of the ideas. But we had many meetings on it, and it's a sore spot. It's a pet peeve of a lot of people, all the dirt and people parking on the dirt driveways, dirt fronts, materials that the driveways are made out of. It's all encompassed in there, which our chairman, Gage Hartung, will be going over. Next topic I have is on the mutual aid agreement on the schools. This has nothing to do probably with the resolution, but north of 119th Street, it's another school district in Biscayne Park, and it's a block. I mean, a long block going all across the top of the park. I'm in that block, and anyone north of 119th Street, they have to go to the North Miami schools. I don't know if there's a way that we can just be part of Biscayne Park for the school district for the kids or the potential kids or the people moving into the park, because as a realtor, that's a problem in that area. A lot of people don't want to be that area because they want to be in the Miami Shores area where they could go to Miami Shores Elementary. After that, you know, it's who knows where they're going to go to school, but the question is Miami Shores Elementary. And if you live in Biscayne Park, they want everyone to stay in the same thing. They don't understand why north of 119th, that 1 block to 2 blocks to 121st, it's different. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that can be done about that. Lastly is code enforcement. The park, in my opinion, I've been living here since 2004, 2003, and I've had 2 houses here. We work hard at our house. Our code enforcement needs, I think, some tightening up. I think it's a little, I think things aren't being seen. I think people are being a little too gracious to maybe people that may appear like they have an issue. You need to move forward, and Biscayne Park is a pretty place, but people shouldn't have uncut hedges, weeds growing everywhere, and it should be seen by the code officer. Problem he has, and I've spoken to the code officer about this, is if something can be changed is a courtesy notice. The courtesy notice is handed out to people that have these issues, and they wait till the end of it, and it's in my block, or in the area that I see the most, that I drive around. They get the courtesy notice, and they wait till the end of the courtesy notice. They cut the grass, trim the hedge, or whatever the courtesy notice for, barely enough to satisfy, not in a nice way, to just satisfy the courtesy notice. The courtesy notice is gone, and they wait for the next courtesy notice. And it's, in some houses, it's 6 or 7 times they've gotten courtesy notices for the hedges, for the grass, for maintenance of roof, whatever it is. And it's over and over and over. If there's a way that could be looked at and tighten that up, if they could go into a violation, I think the people will have a little more pride in their houses as opposed to doing the minimum, whereas everyone else is trying to do the maximum for their appearance. The ones with the minimum will have to conform with everyone else. That's what code enforcement is. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'd like to, Andrew, I'd like to just mention 2 things. On the school district, there's actually 3. You happen to be in Gratney School District, not North Miami. As soon as you get on the other side.
When I say North Miami, Gratney is
and
North
it
Miami.
and this was proposed about looking at changing this. In fact, I proposed it a few years ago. It's going to take the community, and you got to work with the school board. It's not an easy thing to do. And as far as what you mentioned about the code, our attorney's already told our code board that if it's exactly the same repeat, it can go strictly right to the violation process within the year. So that already exists. And I believe our code compliance officer attended that meeting that our attorney was there.
I think the attorney might want to
Okay,
clarify.
I'm sorry.
We're going to have to look at the particulars, but Commissioner, you're right in if there's been a violation, because then they become a repeat violator. But as I'm understanding it, before, once you get your courtesy notice, they've cleaned it up, so it's not a violation, and the code can't, board can't find it a violation. A lot of cities have to deal with this, but I can get with Reggie and the manager, and we can look at the particular facts and see how we can move forward.
Because actually I got that from Reggie. I spoke to Reggie, and he's the one who told me that he's kind of handcuffed by the courtesy notice program. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, they're gonna look into it.
And it's a state law, so there's
Right.
certain restrictions we have, but we can look at it.
And we recognize it. We basically become lawn cutting babysitters every 2 weeks. We know.
Sad.
Yeah, and it's not a good use of our code resources.
Exactly.
And I know, if I can just chime in to kind of put the topic at ease as well, we have Christian attending face training at the end of the month, as well as one of our police officers. We also have our code officer going to a tablet. So hopefully within another month, it will be a lot more hands on deck, and we hope to really pick up the pace. That's our goals.
Okay.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Gary.
I don't want to be left out. I actually had some fairly harsh comments in mind this evening, which I'm not going to make because preceding comments tend to be a little more positive in a positive tone. But I think if we're going to really recognize moving forward, working collectively, and avoiding some of the things that are occurring now, which really, to me, almost are a repeat of the previous or past commissions, the kind of dissension and antagonism that has occurred. I'd like to think that we can stop with this idea that we're going to evaluate Attorney Hearn. I think it is unnecessary. I don't think it sets the kind of tone that we want to see. I don't think anybody is supporting it except one commissioner. And I think in instances like this, rather than concede, you should express your opinions and be done with these things. They have a tendency to go on and on unnecessarily. And I think it's demeaning, unimportant, and does not accomplish anything. But if that's the route the commission wishes to take, then maybe it's time for the village to evaluate the commissioners. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment period. I want to, Joe was kind enough to do the presentation. I know he probably would not want to sit through this entire meeting, so we're going to take just a 5-minute break, that's it. For anyone interested in signing the banner, we can all do it now, and then we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Hello? Yep. All right, we're going to get started. Item 7A, we have an update from our police chief, Chief McKenna. Heidi.
For those of you that haven't met Detective Lieutenant Pineda, this is him right here, and I'll get back to him in a minute. We wanted to give you an update on some crime information. Lieutenant Pineda put together crime stats looking at incidents from January 1st through September 25th. He looked at the things that were reported to us as crimes, which were primarily residential burglaries, burglaries to vehicles, and robberies. Biscayne Park had 7 residential burglaries and 25 vehicle burglaries. We had no robberies at all. He compared us to our neighbors, Miami Shores and North Miami. We had the 7 residential burglaries. Miami Shores had 83. North Miami had 56. We had 25 burglaries to vehicles. Miami Shores had 87. North Miami had 76. We had no robberies. Miami Shores had 13, and North Miami had 34. We wanted to briefly discuss some of the things that we're doing to address crime. If you look at our crime numbers, it may seem like we're doing pretty good compared to neighboring communities, but that we have any crimes at all is a bad thing for the community. We want to do better than that. We have a bicycle stolen. That's a bad thing for the community. Somebody's lost a bicycle. Somebody's a victim of a crime. We don't want that, so we want to address everything as best we can as a police department. So we just wanted to briefly talk to you about some of the things that we've done, and then we'll answer any questions that anyone may have. The village manager and I, the village manager, she's consults with me all the time about everything that's going on in the community. Sometimes when I'm in my swimming pool on the weekends, even. So, one of the things we took a look at was how we were patrolling the neighborhood, and we realized that over the last few years, the police department has been buying unmarked police cars, and they're great for allowing law enforcement to do a variety of law enforcement functions without being observed by the criminals or the community. But we wound up with 5 unmarked police cars here. So the village manager and I decided we were gonna mark those cars, and they all have been marked except for one because the company ran out of lettering. So we're still waiting for the new lettering to come in. But it's very important that it's not just that the residents see the police cars and know that the police cars are out there riding around, but also that people that might be thinking about doing a crime know that the police cars are out there, because the purpose of the unmarked cars really was so that people didn't know the police were out there, which is not what we really want the criminals to think. We want them to know that we're riding around. And the other thing that we did, and it's probably the single most important thing that we've done since I've been here, is hire this man standing right here next to us, Detective Lieutenant Pineda. What was happening here was, I've heard, you know, all the time nice things about the police officers. They're friendly, they know your names, and when you call them, they come right away. But if your house gets broken into, there really was no component in the police department to do investigations, so substantive investigations on the burglaries. So that's really what Detective Lieutenant Pineda's role is. He investigates all reported crimes. He processes the crime scenes. When a burglary happens, one of the things he does is he goes and he does a neighborhood canvass. Then he comes back a second time and does a follow-up neighborhood canvass to try and catch the residents that were not home, that might have seen something that could help in that investigation. He regularly meets with investigators and networks with all of the surrounding agencies immediately and maybe a little bit farther out. One of the things that this has resulted in is tomorrow, I don't know if you'll notice them, but tomorrow Lieutenant Pineda's partners from the surrounding agencies in Miami-Dade County, they're going to be doing a gang initiative in the village. It's not anything to worry about. They're looking for gang activities. They're looking for criminal intelligence. Lieutenant Pineda identifies and locates known criminals. Like, one of the things our officers don't know is where do the burglars live? Are they in jail? Did they just get out of jail? Who are the drug dealers? Who are the gang members? What squabbles are they having? What concerns do we have with gangs? What gang members need to be kept apart? This is all responsibility and function of Lieutenant Pineda. He informs patrol officers on issues they need to address while they're out there patrolling, patterns and methods of how crimes are being conducted. He's about to do a briefing with us on the current status of gang activities and also terrorism. He may say, well, there's no terrorism in Biscayne Park, but we don't really know that. That's a function of Lieutenant Pineda and the criminal intelligence people in Miami-Dade County to sort out. If there's something going on here, we need to know about it. The criminal intelligence community needs to know about it, and it has to be addressed. So the last thing I wanted to say about Lieutenant Pineda is that he brings to the community something we really haven't had before, and that's an overall criminal intelligence component, and that is, you know, a very, very important part of helping the police department to make the community as safe and as a nice place to live as it possibly can be. We'll take any questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the commission? Chief, can you speak briefly about there was sort of a change in philosophy about policing as opposed to putting police along the perimeters of the village. We used to see a lot of police presence on Griffin and 6th Avenue, and it seems that lately that hasn't been there. And I understand that's because you were focusing more on circulation within the village. Is that right?
When I came here on July 1st, manager, if you could correct me, was that what had just started? Was just in its initial phases there, trying to focus as much as we can on all of the community and not just the outline, you know, the through streets. We evaluated that, and the officers are there more than they had been. We've spoken to them. We asked them to focus on those streets, and we also asked them to focus on those offenses being committed by motor vehicles that contribute to vehicle accidents. That was something that we wanted to emphasize. But if there was any feeling that they were not supposed to be on any streets by them, that should be eliminated. You know, that's not, you know, we don't have any restrictions about where they can or can't patrol. What we just ask them to do is to patrol where they know they need to be and where the community needs them and where they will make the best use of their time, whether it's Northeast 6th Avenue or it's 10th Avenue right here in the village.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, we have item 7B is the sanitation transition update. Christian first, and then I think Gerlin is going to speak as well.
I'm going to preface before Christian goes. I was very pleased to hear the positive feedback and the empathetic feedback from our residents during public comments. We all recognize that there's been hiccups. Feet have been held to the fire, both in writing and verbally. We've been in discussions throughout the past week every day with Waste Pro. Mayor, if you'll allow me, I had started to compose this email to the commission this morning, and I got busy and stopped, but I want to just read something, and bear with me. It's about Disney. Bear with me. It goes back to garbage collection eventually. So last night as I unwound at home, I was reading an article about the closing of a ride in the Norway Pavilion at Disney's Epcot in the Orlando Sentinel. The ride is called Maelstrom. The ride is being closed to transform into a Frozen ride, which coincides with Disney's successful Frozen movie. In the Disney fan realm, this has been a big controversy, pitting purists against the new generation of Disney movie fans. As most of you know, we frequent the Disney parks frequently, and I often reference Walt Disney's professional business models in my own leadership. There was an excerpt in the article about Maelstrom closing that jumped out at me. Quote, "Then on June 2nd, 1988, the Norway Pavilion finally opened at Epcot, but without the Maelstrom in operation. The ride, like many new theme park rides are in the beginning, was plagued by glitches that prevented it from opening the same day as the pavilion. The ride's technical problems didn't keep Norway's national and cultural pride from showing, though as the site featured the now familiar traditional Norwegian streetscape, a wooden church with artifacts from the Viking era, and shops filled with Norwegian clothing and souvenirs. So when we're in the park, I find myself people watching a lot. I put people into 3 categories. You've got those diehards. They saved their whole life to get to Disney, and they want every cent and moment out of that Disney, the Disney Corporation, really, and not the individuals that make the ride spin. They cannot and will not accept that a ride is not functioning, or that it rains and a parade gets canceled, or that Winnie the Pooh won't stop and hug them as he rushes backstage to cool off from that horrendous costume. There are discussions online about people demanding refunds of their tickets because of rain, or rides not working, or not getting hugged by a character. Then there's the other kind of Disney diehard. They spend their evenings on the message boards. They get into debates about whether it's to go to the way to get to Small World is going left by the castle, right by the castle, or straight through with sneakers. It's true, at rope drop. They have their visit planned to the minute, and they have no patience for the people in category number 1. And then there's 3. Group number 3, the regulars who stroll around the park, see where the day will take them, grab a couple of fast passes, and ride a couple rides, knowing that they'll be back in a month to ride something else. I like to believe my family's in number 3, but Marlene will tell you that I'm probably number 1 or number 2. That's an ongoing debate in our house. So what does this have to do with garbage collection? A lot and everything. Sure, Waste Pro has a lot of other cities and clients, and they do pickups regularly as they promised us. And sure, there was an expectation that it would run smoothly on the first day. But even at the best of the best at Disney, it doesn't always go the way they plan. And that was our attitude throughout the last week. And I was glad to see that the residents had the same attitude. So just as those were there for the last day of riding Maelstrom, it took them 25 years, 26 years to get to that last day to ride Maelstrom. I hope we'll get through the next month, and our garbage will get picked up, and we'll forget about the last few days. So I'm going to hand it over to Christian. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you very much.
Wow, I need to follow that with backup dancers, the volunteers. Well, today was really part 2 of day 1 of working with Waste Pro. Friday was garbage and recycling collection. Today was garbage and trash collection, or bulk waste. And overall, it's gone relatively smoothly. We have, of course, heard from residents. Part of this, and this is something that I will own as being my fault, one thing that I never considered was that under the old sanitation workers, the village was divided into zones, and the residents were all used to having their trash and their recycling and their garbage picked up early in the morning. So now by 10 o'clock, we're hearing from people saying, my trash wasn't picked up, they've missed me. And so that's something that we're going to have to correct and let the villagers know that actually we're doing the whole village in one day now. And as a result of that, it goes from 7 in the morning until 5 in the evening. And right now, it's going a little later than that as we bring everyone up to speed. And the Waste Pro workers have been gracious enough to stay late. I know Friday, Gerlin was stomping down the alleys through the rain in her heels, and God love her, she stuck with us the whole way. So, and I'll turn this over to her in just a second. But we have been tracking everything through Track Easy program, which a lot of our residents are using it themselves and going in and letting us know when they have something, a concern or problem. Additionally, a lot of them are calling Village Hall, and we're putting them in ourselves so that we can track them. We can keep reports on how we're doing. And we're doing pretty well overall. I would say we've probably heard from about 2% of residents, which in the grand scheme of things is not bad. Most importantly, if you go through that report and look at it, most of the issues are closed out. Waste Pro, when we hear of something, I call Gerlin or the Waste Pro supervisor. They get on it immediately. And that's the good part. We are able to respond quickly, which is something that our residents were used to with our old sanitation department. And we look forward to continuing to do that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gerlin unless you guys have any questions.
I just want to chime in about Track Easy. That is the most important tool that we have right now. It's linked right on our website. If residents use that to communicate, it goes to Gerlin's phone, it goes to Christian's phone, and that's how we're able to know immediately that there's an issue. We appreciate that some have reached out to neighbors, staff members, or even commissioners, but the most direct and easiest way for us to respond is to use that Track Easy program. And while Gerlin's talking, Maria will pull it up so we can show it on our website.
Okay. All right. Christian, thank you.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, Gerlin Escar with Waste Pro. I just want to say thank you very much for everyone's patience and your positive comments. We strive to continue improving. It's our second day, or as Christian said, the second part of the first day. We've had a few issues that we were working through them, and will only get better, and hopefully by next week you'll be seeing a great improvement. I wanted to thank those of you that have used the Track Easy, because it helps us tremendously so that we can have real-time recovery. Last week we were able to go back and pick up, and we went out on Saturday for those that got missed, and we worked a few hours on Saturday, and some one strange call that came in on a Sunday, and we went ahead and took care of it too. So we're constantly there. We're responsive to your needs, and we'll continue to do that. And we're tracking everything. And you can also go online and track your case, so you can see if it's going to be closed out, if we responded. And some of you will receive an email from me, because I have the ability to communicate with you online through the Track Easy. So,
Gerlin, if you, for those residents that do not use computers, is there a phone number that they can call?
Absolutely. It's in all of the materials, our 305 number. It's
Maybe we can post that on the website?
Yeah.
We'll put it in.
Well, if they don't-
7011.
And this is the brochure that went to every resident.
Okay, good.
Twice in the village, through mail and with the recycle
Yes,
bin.
it's 305-651-7011. And our service reps are on there even on Saturdays because we got calls on Saturday. And they take your information, they put it in Track Easy, and a lot of times, sometimes they even call the person back that doesn't have, a way of communicating online, and they will get a call back from our service rep or from myself.
Okay. Thank you, Gerlin. Any comments, questions?
Yes, I just
Yes,
have
sir.
a question. I know today's the first day you've done our yard waste, and of course you're doing our kitchen waste. I noticed that those are being commingled. Is that normal? The yard waste and the kitchen waste is being put into the same packer truck?
Garbage and trash can be put together, yes.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? All right, Gerlin, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to item 7C. We have Code Review Board proposed language regarding driveways and swales. We have the Code Review Board Chairman Gage.
Hi, good
here.
evening, everyone. Gage Hartung, Chairman of the Code Review Board. Okay, so what you have in front of you is our suggestions and our proposal for the revisions to Chapter 5. This is a continuation of the work that we've been doing for a long time. And we've been, rolling them out one by one. This one just happens to be an entire chapter, and it's all the suggestions that we've done throughout the years combined together on the in this one chapter. The first thing that you're going to see if you're going through is just some updates to the Miami-Dade, and then the and proposed language for the objects in the right-of-way. Okay, as you can see at the top, you see the language that is striked out, which is our current code, objects in the right-of-way. Right now, our code basically says you're allowed to have markers, landscaping, and not much else in your right-of-way. And as through the years, our village has developed, and the residents have started to plant in their right-of-way and landscape and such like that. It became obvious that we needed to start addressing that with our code so that it could be managed by our code officer and by the village. The new 5.3.4 landscaping and objects in the swale and the right-of-way was brought about actually with a joint meeting with the Park and Pathways Committee. We had 3 meetings with them, and the 2 boards sat down together and actually wrote this language out, and the 2 boards combined actually approved the language. What we're doing here now is basically adding, trying to come up with layers of clear zones, of low zones and high zones, so that starting at the street, because as we all know, everybody has different size right-of-ways. We're trying to make it uniform so that all of the right-of-ways will be managed the same. Right now, some people have 5-foot right-of-ways, some people have 20 feet right-of-ways. So by doing this, we were able to come up with 3 clear zones, which basically manage the right-of-way and what is going to be proposed there. Another thing that was added too is right now we do not, like I said earlier, we do not have any language in our code about mailboxes, and you're starting to see more and more mailboxes being placed out, post-style mailboxes coming out away from the house. So we added language in here, which is trying to manage them so that they're not so close to the street that with our narrow streets, somebody doesn't risk running into it or losing a mirror, or somebody walking on the street can't get off the street. So we added some language about mailboxes. Again, this is something I've been in contact with the village attorney about. We would have to, if we go forward with this language, we'd have to talk to the postal service and make sure that we're all clear on that. Another thing that this addresses is the issue with trees in the right-of-way. As we all know, we had an issue a couple years ago where a tree in the right-of-way fell, and then there was some dispute about who actually owned it. So this is basically since the village is basically the owner of the stuff in the right-of-way, because it is their property, this language now tries to address what can be planted as far as trees and such, and the locations of the trees. Again, there's some legality. I know that the attorney has to look at to make sure that, you know, we're not biting off something that the village is now going to be responsible for, but in reality, we already are, based on what happened a couple years ago. You know, so we are proposing that. We also are adding language regarding. Okay, I talked about the trees. I'm sorry. We have language about the property maintenance of the right-of-way, that the property owner that abuts it must maintain it. It must be landscaped with grass. The tree pruning is addressed also. The next item, which is under street standards, there's been some issue for the last couple of years with code enforcement as far as the way our current code is written for visibility triangles. So we went back and looked at especially the corner intersections, and we rewrote, hopefully more clear, so that the code officer can better enforce it. And we also added diagrams to the code too, so that it becomes very rock solid and clear what the intention of our code is as far as visibility triangles. Right now, since I also serve on planning and zoning, I see this a lot. We do not actually require somebody to have a driveway in the village. So we are now adding language that basically says that a vehicle must be parked on an approved surface, meaning a driveway. And if you look at the second to the last page, we are now adding language exactly what is a driveway and how it is going to be regulated by the village. You know, with being of a uniform material, where it can be located, what type of material it can be constructed out of, limiting what type of materials, and basically also calling out what can be put inside of the right-of-way. And then also we are also giving a year to everyone to come into compliance as far as that part of the code too. So it's something that's really is needed. It's surprising that we don't actually have language calling out what can be done as a driveway, where it can be done. All it really is this: there's the 40% rule of the imperviousness that currently the way it is written now. And that's chapter 5.
All right, thank you, Gage. I have a quick question. I mean, this in part was precipitated by the tree case, the Bergeron's tree, and so I thought the concept was to clarify who was going to be responsible for maintaining trees and or removing trees in the swale, and I don't see that this does that. I mean, it says basically that the owner is responsible for maintaining, meaning mowing, keeping it clean, and then tree pruning is the city. But how about tree removal?
Well, I mean, I'm reading.
I could be missing it, but I was
number
reading.
J actually does say about maintenance. I mean, it says edging, weeding, trimming, cleanup of activities.
Gage? H says removal of trees in the swale by the abutting property owner.
No, but that just says if you want to remove a tree, you got to get a permit.
Yes.
But where does it say that?
Yes. If I may, I don't think it is clear, and normally you wouldn't get it for discussion in this ordinance form, so I haven't, other than talk concepts with Gage, I haven't changed any of the language, but that is one of the very important things this commission needs to decide.
Right.
Most cities will say the right-of-way is the adjoining property owner, and the trees are 100% their responsibility. But there's very few cities that have trees as large as this city does in that area. And that's when the tree case, I like that, came up, and I think the price might have been around $6,000 or $7,000. And so what happened then, actually, if I recall, you were actually chair of the Code Enforcement Board, and the language that was drafted years ago was not as clear as those other cities. And so the determination by the Code Enforcement Board was it wasn't clear enough as I understand it, and so there was not a violation found. I have draft language that went expressly to making it the responsibility of the property owner. I also recall we had discussions where we would talk about the circumference of a tree, and when it got to a certain level, village manager Anna Garcia actually got with an arborist, and we had some language, Maria, if my mind, yeah, where we looked at it almost, when it got to a certain size, that maybe we as the village would take some or a significant amount of responsibility, at least for the removal, maybe not for the liability. That's a very important discussion to have, and that's why, well, not only why, but it's not here for first reading, and this is a good time to have that discussion.
Okay,
Because there's
so-
liability issues as well.
Yeah, I think we need to discuss that, because I thought that was the most important point. And the only other comment I have, other than some minor details, but I think that the driveway section is very important. I think that's probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest issues with respect to the aesthetics of the village, and I think it really brings down the village when you see cars parked, you know, right up to the front door and all over the front lawn. So I think that's a great idea. Yes.
I have a question. Also, the previous commission changed our ordinance to allow campaign signs so many feet from the street, which is, most places is putting it into the swale area. How is that going to fit in with this?
Well, campaign signs are handled in a different section of the.
Right, and campaign
Right, but-
signs have to be on private property.
Well, remember, that got changed, it was
Oh, we
very
changed it here
Yeah,
to 5 feet, and,
Yeah.
but that's the general private property location, and we weren't requiring people to have surveys, so.
but, yeah, what I'm saying is, since this is saying you can't put anything in the swale area, but if 5 feet from the pavement is the swale area, and you're allowed to by that ordinance, shouldn't this reference that other ordinance?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, again, there's been no changes made here. Although you have proposed language, it's not language that has gone through a critical thinking. It's more the concepts you see before you.
No, I'm all for, you know, I'm all for that, but, you know, so we don't end up with a conflict.
Yep.
Okay.
And then what you mentioned about the trees, I completely agree with what our attorney was saying, is when trees get to a certain size, then it's burdensome from the homeowner, you know, if a tree goes down, that maybe to have some kind of a language for the size of the tree. Also, if the homeowner is supposed to maintain those trees, and, you know, we need to have something in there of what is considered maintained. In other words, somebody's going to have to make that decision. And if they do, whomever that person is, if code then cites them, where do we go from that point? Because if a homeowner still refuses, okay, they get fined, but you still have a tree that can get into a dangerous situation. So I'd like to see something in there to, you know, to follow, so there's some steps through there.
But in here, it says that if there is a safety issue, the village has the right to go in there and.
But then, who decides that?
Yeah, actually, I propose language that it should be in the village's sole discretion. Subsection G, that if there's an emergency situation involving potential danger to health, safety, and welfare of the community, and that should be in the village's sole discretion, we should add language in G.
But there's a number of trees that just hasn't been touched, and the branches have gotten so long that it's just a matter of time that branch is going to come down. And since these are,
Yeah, I think
they're in
that's the purpose of
intersections
that,
and stuff.
that's the purpose of that provision.
But
I
I just want to make sure there is something can be done.
I agree.
That was.
Okay. Other comments?
I have a couple of comments with regard to the language. I don't know if we want, maybe it's the first reading better time to do it,
I
or
think so,
now.
yeah. Let's
But-
keep the minor stuff for first reading and major concepts.
Okay, the issue of the trees in the swales and primarily the liability issue, and then secondarily, the maintenance and the removal if necessary. Those are things that we really need to give some serious thought to. And I think to help us in that process, I don't know if staff can somehow ballpark between now and a first reading, what would it cost to, first of all, trim up those trees in the swale? Because if we're gonna take on responsibility for it, we're gonna have to start budgeting for that kind of an expenditure. And maybe Park and Parkways could help us, you know, make that assessment. I guess that's my primary big picture concern with this proposal for changes to Chapter 5. I also want to thank the Code Review Board for all of the detail. I mean, looking at this, we cannot fathom, anyone reviewing it can't fathom the hours that you've put into looking at all of these details.
A lot of the members are actually here tonight too, so.
Yeah. So I do want to thank you for all your work, and you've been at it for several years. And I think the last time we looked at this, maybe the commission said, well, now you have to go back and talk to Park and Parkways and get their impressions and their suggestions. So it's been, you know, quite a lengthy process. So I appreciate your work, and thanks for producing Chapter 5. I think that if we need a motion to direct staff to take it to the next level for attorney review and to bring it back for an ordinance, I'm happy to make that motion.
Can I have
Okay,
a
before,
comment first?
sure.
Yeah, a few things. First of all, Gage, can't thank you enough. This is really amazing. And it's been a ton of work over a very long period of time. Just a few things about this. Regarding Bob's point about the campaign signs, the clear zone is 5 feet. You can't have anything there. But the low zone, which is up to 3 feet, 3 feet in height, starts at 5 feet back, which is where we were talking about allowing campaign signs. So I think it's adequately consistent that you can put them 5 feet back, because that's your low zone anyway. The second thing...
Can I just make a comment on that real quick?
Yeah.
Because it does, under the clear zone, it does define, it says no plant material other than grass. It does not exclude campaign signs.
Well, we did. The previous
Yeah, I know, but
commission
that
did.
is actually
Yeah.
addressed in another part of the...
Right. But I'm just saying that if the concept is that the right-of-way or the swale serves a purpose, and that purpose requires it to be free of stuff, then it's also free of campaign signs. So there's consistency enough, I think, there, no?
Well, this language is really determined towards landscaping.
I know.
Like I said, it's covered in another thing, and I think the campaign signs are considered temporary, so it's not a permanent. I don't read this as this excludes campaign signs in the clear zone.
I know, but the other ordinance excluded them in the clear zone. So what I'm saying is, between the two, this ordinance and the campaign sign ordinance, the whole thing, the whole 5 feet is a clear zone, which is what we ever intended anyway, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So the second thing is about the driveway. First of all, I completely agree with you that it's much better for everybody and better for the village if we have a designated kind of surface. But what are we going to do about hardship cases when somebody says that they can't afford to install turf block or whatever else would work for them? Do we have a plan for that?
Well, I mean, basically everything here, we're allowing everything except for dirt. I mean, you can have concrete, you know, pavers, bricks.
We wouldn't want solid concrete. That creates that flooding problem that we still have. Weren't you saying that it had to be 40% permeable?
It cannot be over 40% impervious of the right-of-way
Right.
and the front lot. So you can't pave over your front yard.
Right, but in saying that we want to have an appropriate driveway, that driveway should not be, let's say, dirt, right?
Yeah, that's because that's not really an
Yeah.
approved driveway material under
Right.
this law.
So all
or
I'm
this
asking is,
code.
if somebody has to do something that they haven't done up till now, what if they can't afford to do it? What do we do about that?
I think that's going to be, that's going to be
The
the
initial
code.
thing is a 1 year.
Yeah, I know.
That it may not be enough, I understand, but there's
Right,
at least a way.
that's my point.
And then I think the matter ultimately would come before the code enforcement board, and they would determine on a case-by-case basis whether to grant extensions.
Just as long as somebody thinks about the possibility that this will not be doable to some people. And we have to figure out whether we should help them or find them anyway or excuse them or whatever we want to do.
Yeah, I think that the code board has worked well, with respect to, some folks have roofs that need to be replaced, and there's always,
Yeah, I know.
extensions granted. And
I know. And then the last thing is regarding this peculiar situation from a few years ago with the tree that had to come down. And it seems to me, if I remember correctly, that was an unusual property because for some strange reason, the right-of-way was extremely deep. It was like 30 feet deep or something. And I don't know why a right-of-way would need to be 30 feet deep. I don't know why it would need to be more than 10 feet deep. So I wonder if at some point we would talk about reserving only, let's say, 10 feet as the right-of-way, and anything beyond that, we will give it to the property owner, and it's theirs, and they can take care of whatever's on it. We don't need a 30-foot right-of-way in anybody's property, right?
Yeah, that
would be an entire.
Yeah, that's the whole.
Well, I know that's not your end of things. I'm just
All right,
bringing
so
that to
I
your
think what we need to do is we need to give it's fine to make a motion to move forward, but we need to give direction to staff on that one important issue, which is whether to draft it in terms of having the village maintain the trees or remove the trees or the private property owner.
I don't think that we are prepared, we have enough information today to make that determination.
Could I suggest that maybe the attorney report back to you at the next meeting on what your findings are as far as the liability and?
Well, I already have that. I think it was asked, though, to get a fiscal estimate. And that can be, this does not have to come back to first reading next month. I think this is very important, and I think you should probably know that more. And just very briefly, Mayor, on Commissioner Jonas's issue, we can abandon areas of rights-of-way, and many cities do it once you find that there's no benefit, for the 10 feet, let's say, because of the recovery zone. And then it can be abandoned to the adjacent property owner, and often the property owner does like that, actually, so.
Okay, so you want to make a motion?
Before I do, I just was thinking, I know that there was some language that was developed as a result of the tree case. And I'd like to think we should bring it all back so that we have all of the pieces when we.
While we talk
look
about
at
the
it.
fiscal, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And could you also bring back some rough language with, like incorporating the caliper concept or the size?
I didn't find it today when I was looking for it. I definitely found the language that put the liability kept the liability on the adjoining owners. But I do believe between Maria and myself, I know we drafted something with help of an arborist, actually.
Okay, right, because I think, you got a few instances that may be Australian pines. I mean, these are old growth trees, whatever they may be. And I think, we need to go ahead and have language that for those, the city will help, pay for some of the, removal.
Okay.
All right. I guess we can make a motion.
So my motion is for staff, village attorney, and staff to work up the items we've just discussed and bring these changes to Chapter 5 to the next steps.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Gage, thank you very much. Thank you to the board members that are present. All right, consent agenda. We removed item 8C. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson. I'd like to remove the minutes of September 9th, and I'll bring that back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, motion by Commissioner Anderson. Second. Second by Commissioner Jonas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. And second reading, ordinance 2014-08. This is going to be a long one.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending the village's Code of Ordinances and the village's Land Development Code to create consistency throughout the codes concerning administrative and user fees. amending Chapter 11, Article 3, garage sales, Section 11-45, entitled Permit Issuance Fee of the Village's Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 17, Traffic and Vehicles, Section 17-1, entitled Impoundment of Motor Vehicles Used During the Commission of a Crime of the Village's Code of Ordinances, amending Part 2, Chapter 16, Permits and Certificates, Section 1615, entitled Landlord Permits of the Village's Land Development Code, amending Part 2, Chapter 16, Permits and Certificates, Section 1616, entitled Certificate of Reoccupancy, amending Part 2, Chapter 16, Permits and Certificates, Section 16.18, entitled Home-Based Occupations of the Village's Land Development Code, amending Part 2, Chapter 16, Permits and Certificates, Section 16.19, entitled Contractor Registration of the Village's Land Development Code, amending Part 2, Chapter 17, Fees, Bonds, and Charges, Section 17.1, entitled Generally of the Village's Land Development Code, amending Part 2, Chapter 17, Fees, Bonds, and Charges, Section 17.3, entitled Campaign Sign Bond of the Village's Land Development Code, amending Part 2, Chapter 17, Fees, Bond, and Charges, Section 17.6, entitled Planning and Zoning, Fee Schedule of the Village's Land Development Code, repealing Ordinance 2006-14, addressing the building permit fee schedule in its entirety, providing that village fees be addressed by resolution, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, providing for an effective date. Second reading. Request to approve and adopt.
All right, this is second reading. Madam Manager, do you want to just summarize in one sentence what this accomplishes?
In a public hearing.
Yeah, this,
Yeah, after, we'll open it up, yeah.
Sure. This ordinance basically removes all references to dollar amounts from our Code of Ordinances, which going down the road will make it more efficient and cost-effective for us to change fees as we do it by resolution. We're going to have all our fees in one place. This is companion item with item 10A on our agenda, so once this is done, we will review the fees.
Okay, thank you. Open it up to public comment. Anyone have any public comments? Dan Keys?
Wonder if there's any thoughts and consideration of, I'm assuming it's a majority vote on a resolution for this. Beg your, through the chair. I know everybody up here today, in, where was it, 2014, you know, realizes that it's an easy change to increase the cost of our living in Biscayne Park. 20 years from now, I don't know what the village manager's tactics will be. I don't know what the commission's tactics will be. So there's two things. I really don't think this should be on the consent agenda. You know, not sure there's any wishes to go and put a requirement of a 4/5 vote in there. And lastly, I don't know again if it's appropriate to have in the ordinance a requirement to have this placed on the website. I imagine we're going to have a website going forward. It's a little odd to do that, but I mean, there's one issue that's actually on in the next item that you're going to consider the actual fees is, you know, one of the fees was, I thought it was $10, okay, for that particular item, and it's indicating that there's no change, and it's $20. That's for every additional cubic yard of trash that's picked up. You know, it would be nice to go to one spot, easily accessible, rather than going to Village Hall and having somebody give you the thing and flip through it and find it that way. But otherwise, you know, this is the way business ought to be done. It's very confusing to go to individual ordinances to find out what charges might be, so having this fee schedule is a good idea. Thanks.
So Dan, I'm sorry, but so that means you're in support of this?
That's what all I meant, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm absolutely in favor of it.
No, I didn't know it in that.
In that soliloquy, you didn't know that that's what I was.
Was there certain things that you were suggesting change?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the consideration for, you know, in the ordinance that the fee schedule be posted on the website, on the village website, if it exists at any given time. I mean,
Okay.
you don't change fees that often. You put one up there, you know, once or twice a year maybe. You
Got
have to change it and put it, you know, put the new static one up.
Okay, all right, great. Anyone, any other public comment? No? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Yes, Commissioner
Yeah,
Anderson.
what Mr. Keys brought up, one of the things, at least what I gathered from what he was saying, that maybe in this ordinance, we should have something saying it needs to have a supermajority of the commission to change the numbers. Instead of just a majority to change fees in the fee schedule, to have a supermajority. So it's been a little tougher, and it'll be a little harder sell to start changing these fees.
I mean, do you see these fees as such a significant issue that would require a supermajority vote? I don't.
I don't, with this commission, I don't. But what Mr. Keys was saying, we don't know what the next commission or commissions, what their thinking would be.
Okay. Other comments?
Perhaps as a compromise, because I think the more important aspect of it is to get notice to the residents and for the residents to be able to give us feedback when an increase of the fee is proposed, then rather than requiring a supermajority, how about if we require like it would an ordinance, at least an advertisement that this is going to be discussed?
But isn't the whole, well, one of the reasons of doing this is sort of making it easier to adjust minor fees. So every time you want to adjust, go from $8 to $10, you're going to have to spend the money to do an advertisement. So it's sort of.
What I'm envisioning
And I appreciate what you're trying to say. It's just.
What I'm envisioning is now that everything is compiled in one place, we're not going to every 3 months make a change to these fees, but maybe every 2 years, you know, things will be reviewed and an assessment made, and then the adjustments made at that time, all with one ordinance or with one resolution. And as I say, I think the more important aspect of it is for people to be aware of it rather than to be taken by surprise. As Mr. Keys was suggesting, it shouldn't go under a consent agenda. There should be feedback from the community for it.
Okay. Commissioner Jones.
Motion to approve this?
As is?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second? No. All right, motion fails for lack of a second.
Okay, can I make a motion to add a provision for, well, actually, there were two ideas that came across. Add provision for posting the fee schedule at Village Hall and where we have availability by electronic means on the website.
Okay.
So that's one amendment that I'm proposing.
Is there a second amendment?
Second. Oh,
No.
sorry.
That's one.
I'm sorry. If I may, is the commission open to putting that actually in the resolution? Because that's the resolution that's authorizing you to do it anyway. Because if we do the ordinance, I'm going to have to get the exact wording down, number one, from a practical point of view, which we can do. But if you have it in the resolution, and you can even have in the resolution also that that the resolution should have a public hearing attached to it. And that's easily, because I can draft and adopt that as we move on.
Yeah, I think that's better rather than touching the ordinance.
And in 20 years, the ordinance will get separated from the resolution, but the resolution, the next time typically how it's done is the next time a resolution's done to update the fee schedule, it's going to refer to this resolution. And then the third time that the resolution's done to update the fee schedule, it's going to refer to the two previous resolutions. And that's a way to keep your legacy and your intention alive. This ordinance will eventually get separated. I mean, it's just the way it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the suggestion. I'll withdraw my motion.
Right,
And
because
we'll address it with the resolution.
Okay.
It sounds like our intent, our attorney suggested for our intent to be in the resolution. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
if you would make your motion on Marie to second that.
Moved. Okay, motion by
Second.
Commissioner Jonas, second by Vice Mayor Ross. Roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Jonas?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mayor Coviello?
Yes. All right, motion carries 4-0. All right, resolution 2014-70.
This is a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, adopting a schedule of fees for services provided and regular charges specified by Village Code, providing for an effective date.
Madam Manager?
Mayor and Commissioners, we took all of our existing fees, and by way of some background, there are many fee schedules floating around Village Hall. There was one for building permits, there was one for yard waste. Some of them had handwriting on them where the fees had increased, but it wasn't clear to us when they had increased. We had just been told by staff that they had increased. So it was very mismatched. So here we have a resolution that puts all the fees in one place. Most of the fees are based on what we have been charging. We did some research referring to building fees. I know that we looked at about 4 or 5 cities. I know that was not included in the backup, but we were right on target with those cities, especially the residential portions. Of course, those who do the more condo or the commercial development have a different fee schedule than we do. And then we looked at some of our existing fees. We rounded up fees that might have been $24 to $25 just for clarity. And then there were some things that we do, but we didn't have a fee schedule in place. For example, when I came on board, we were issuing film permits already and collecting money for it, but we didn't have a fee schedule for it. So we've added those type of items. And then another example of something new is with garage sales. We haven't done this before, so it's a new program we're proposing because our residents cannot put signs out for their garage sales. We're proposing we do a corner on the webpage where we would advertise their garage sale on our webpage for a fee. So some are existing programs that never had actual fees assigned to them, and some are new programs that have fees assigned to them. We color-coded the backup that you have with you. White is for existing, no change. Yellow is for a new fee, and green is for a change of an existing fee. And Marie and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Madam Manager. I just have 2 comments. I think that the Parks and Recreation fees, the resident rate compared to the non-resident rate, I think that the difference should be greater. I think it's, I don't know if it's exactly double now, but I would consider as high as 3 times the rate for non-residents.
But leave the residents as is and increase the non-residents?
Correct. And then I think the only other comment was I think the lien search fees I think are too low. I think we can increase those lien search fees. And any other comments?
Yeah, I got a few of them.
Okay.
Even though it's an existing one, the alarm registration of $50, I'd like to see that lowered to encourage people to go ahead and register their alarms. I think $50 is way too high just to register it.
You okay?
I figured after they do this, we'll do it.
You want to take,
Yeah, that's it. If you want to get all of them, and then we're keeping notes, and we'll go.
Okay, and then
Okay,
we'll- okay.
I've got a list of them. On the false alarm, it isn't clear whether it's once a year or every 6 months. And I think we need to be enforcing that, and I think it'd be a little more fair if it was once every 6 months, but to go through that. The other part in there, it says permit base fee for $60. I'd like to have some clarification. Exactly what is it?
Which section are you reading from? I'm going to have to go through these. Hold on.
It's on the top of the building permits, so Parks Recreation, Police Department, building permits, it's the first
Yeah,
one.
it's
Right, so
top.
your question is, what is that?
Yeah,
That's the base fee regardless of what, it's a starting point essentially.
it's just because I know at one time, from the previous commission, when our building inspector was here, was mentioning that we have a dollar amount that requires you to go ahead and have a building permit. If it's under that, you didn't have to, for normal stuff. And he says it's way, way too low. He says most places have it up higher than that because what happens is it triggers something that's a very inexpensive thing, and your fee comes up as much as the item that's being done, or sometimes your fee is higher than that. So I'd like to see us take a look at that. So I don't know if that's what it is or not. The building inspector review fee, is that every time you have an inspector out there for reviewing it? The other thing that I don't understand, I know other cities have it too. There's for when you put in an air conditioner or you're changing your air conditioner, I can understand have a fee on that, but I don't understand why does that sliding scale depends upon what size central air conditioner you have. I don't see that there's any justification to have different numbers for the size of the unit. And the other one in there that I'm not quite sure of is the planning board review. I'm not sure what that is. That was my list.
Okay.
Where did you put that one?
The $50 planning board review at the end of.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we'll go through all of them and then you can address each one. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Ross?
I think I'd like our attorney to weigh in on tripling non-user fees. I know that there are certain issues because we have used state monies and other grant monies to enhance the park.
Okay.
Correct. So what the rule is, during those grants, you agree that you have to allow non-residents to participate. There's certain leeway as to being able to charge. There's no question you can charge non-residents more. And the idea there being that they're not paying the taxes which are supporting the park. This is kind of when it's fortunate to have a high millage rate because there's cities that I work with have a millage rate, let's say, of 3, and they're charging at least double. So I would think with our millage rate,
We can charge
you can
10
make that
10
argument.
times, 10
Well, you could charge 3 times, I think is what the suggested is. I'd be comfortable with that, yes.
Okay. And then my only other comment with regard to the particular fees is on the false alarm. I agree with Commissioner Anderson that there should be a time frame, and I'm sure there was one in your mind, but it needs to be, I think, set out on the chart. And I have a bit of a problem with on one side we're telling our residents, call your police, whatever the issue is. You may think it's small, but we're here to service you, and we want to come out and make sure you're okay. But the escalating fee for the false alarm, I have a bit of an issue with that, and I would feel more comfortable if it was not escalating.
These are
But don't-
not false alarms of you physically calling the police out to your house. It is when the alarm company triggers an alarm call to your house. It's a call from ADT to our police department that there's an alarm going off, and we've called the resident and they're non-responsive. Well, it turns out that you're down in downtown Fort Lauderdale and your batteries are low. So we come out the first time. The responsibility is on you to have your batteries checked. Then the next day we get the same call, and the next day we get the same call, and you've been informed of what the situation is from your alarm provider. It's not you calling police. People abusing 911, if that was ever the case, is dictated through other laws outside of the city.
Right.
But this is specific to your alarm company calling the police out to your property because you're non-responsive to their calls.
Then can we insert in there that it's a false alarm for equipment failure? I would feel more comfortable with that because I understand if they're responsible for maintaining the equipment, and if that's the issue, they're being irresponsible, but
Yeah, but it could, I mean, it could be human error too that they should be responsible for as well. I mean,
They're not locking their back door, so the sensor keeps going on.
yeah, I mean,
It's just I would like to see, instead of, we know we need to have a time constraint on this, but I think every 6 months would, because it gives 2 false alarms with no charge per year. And if a person is trying to take care of their equipment and to solve the issues, it's going to get solved. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going off. I know I happen to have a neighbor that has had an alarm problem going off at all times. It's been about 5 years now. So, you know, it's just one of those things that they don't care, evidently.
I
And-
just hate to see those situations where the alarm company will call the homeowner and the homeowner may say, oh, I'm sure it's a false alarm, and then it ends up not being.
Well,
And they'll say, no, don't come out because they don't want to get hit with a charge. So,
well, I don't think to be hit with a charge because, you know, the first time if it happened, you probably are going to go ahead. I think most people will take care of whatever caused that false alarm. And, you know, if you happen to get another false alarm, like I'm saying, I would like to look at 6 months, it's a $25 charge. Now that's, you know, that's to urge a person to really pay attention. And if it happens to be they got, you know, the back door, they didn't lock it, well, you're going to need to start paying attention on that a little bit. I think it's unfair that the citizens are paying, you know, the police have to then jump over to a house every time this false alarm keeps going off, and it takes them away from patrolling other areas, especially if it's an ongoing false alarm. I think we need to be able to do something on people who just don't take care of their equipment.
I wonder how much of a problem it is, how often that occurs. I hate to put you on the spot and tell you to ballpark it.
It's not a problem.
False alarms.
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
any other comments?
Yeah, coming back to Bob's initial point, why do we charge people a registration fee at all for something we'd like to encourage them to do? Bob was pointing out that there's a
Yes.
$50 one-time
For the
fee to
alarm.
register that you have an alarm. Why would we charge them anything?
It helps us keep track of who has alarms in the village.
Why do
Okay,
we need to know? If ADT calls you and gives you an address and says the alarm went off, then you go.
No, so what I was proposing is encourage the residents to register. Don't put the penalty that they got to pay $50. Just encourage them to register. So it's keeping track of who has the alarms, but don't put a penalty that they got to be paying just to be able to register.
Well, why do we have to
All right,
charge them?
let's go through all the comments and then staff will respond. So, do you have any other comments?
No.
Okay. Any
But
other comments?
I
No?
didn't
Any
answer
other
your
comments?
question.
Okay. All right, so you can respond to each one of those items.
Sure. So there was a suggestion to increase lien searches. This is based on staff time to perform the work. So your suggestion to increase it, we have to be careful of how far we increase it. But if there's consensus on the commission for a dollar amount, we'll take it.
But does it necessarily mean that we can only charge what it costs us to process those?
It's a cost recovery. But I think what you're saying is based because of your background, based on what
It's
you...
too low.
And we may be not getting a full cost recovery.
Right.
So I don't know, how critically or recently, I should say, really. What I also might suggest as we go through this, Mayor, there's a real good chance in 3 months we'll probably have a resolution because I'm sure we've missed some fees. So maybe we can earmark that and look at it, and if we need to, bring it
Yeah,
back.
I'm fine with that.
Well,
I
well,
think
also-
my big issue is the park piece. Okay.
Also, too, on the lien search, I mean, you have a sliding scale, depends on how quick somebody wants it.
Right.
So I guess that whole grouping would need to be taken a look at.
Okay, yeah, we
course.
can leave that and revisit it. All right, next item?
The non-resident per hour
Yep.
under recreation.
I would propose that it the non-resident rate be threefold. I mean, yeah,
So it was 40 for residents, you're saying 120 for non-residents?
correct.
Yeah.
Or at least double.
Do we have some idea of how that distribution is happening now? Is it mostly residents,
Yeah.
mostly non-residents?
Shalisa can help us with that. Oh, I thought she
Of
was
course
gonna-
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, you can just walk out when someone asks you a question, that's great. See you guys.
Now,
That's how
thi-
sophisticated they are in Coral
You know,
Springs.
this goes back to when we're doing our budgeting. I really felt that our athletic field, which is being really run into the ground, whatever vegetation, that we got to make sure we're recovering at least what it's costing us to maintain that out there. And I think, like you said, Mayor, going up and tripling it it's the right direction, because the only people that it's going to be hurting is people who aren't paying the taxes.
Sorry. It's okay. Just the ballpark of what you're seeing.
Well, while you're looking, does Vice Mayor Ross or Commissioner Jonas, do you have any thoughts on that particular item? Or are you in agreement that it should,
On tripling?
tripling, yes?
Particularly the rentals inside produces some revenue that, you know, then later gets fed back into maintaining the facility. So I wouldn't want to chill that activity too much, but definitely want to be able to recover enough so that we are getting compensated at least to maintain the property.
Yeah,
So
that's a
when we
good
look
point.
when we look at the ball field and I see it's $20 per resident per hour for residents per hour and $30 for non, I think that might be a little light.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the interior, perhaps we keep it as is with the interior, but the exterior, even not only the ball field, but the picnic areas, you know, I think that we could triple those fees. And I understand what you're saying is you don't want to dissuade people and it's a revenue generating, but it's also the park is for our residents and we don't, I think oftentimes the complaint is that, you know, we can't even use it because it's being overused by non-residents.
From the book, what I noticed, the majority of the inside rentals are from non-residents, and then the outside rentals, as far as the pavilion, the tot lot, that is residents, and then the ball field, it's half and half, but mostly non-residents.
Okay, I look at it, let's say by tripling it, we don't have as many non-residents using it. It could drop, so we, by 2/3, and we'd still be making, the rental fee comes out even to what we're getting now. But we have 2/3 less people
Right.
using it. And I think that opens it up more to the residents then. So I think as far as revenue, I don't see it really going to hurt the revenue. I think it's going to help keep maintaining our field.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, it's just subjective and it's a matter of opinion, but in my opinion, it's too high. I wouldn't triple it.
Not even the ball field use?
No. I'm not looking to discourage people from coming here.
So
Okay.
how about if we try to compromise and double it instead of triple?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
double the non-resident compared to the resident rate.
okay. I'm okay with that. All right, so we'll
To get it through, we're going to need
we'll double the rates, all the rates across the board.
For recreation.
Correct.
Double from the resident rate, yes.
All right, next item.
Police Department alarm registration, there was a recommendation to lower the alarm registration one-time fee.
Yeah, I agree with, I think it was Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Jonas, to require registration but eliminate the fee.
Because it's a one-time per property that people are doing this.
There is, I mean, from the cost recovery perspective, there's paper, there's
There's some,
staff,
yeah.
there's some staff time, so.
And you calculated that to be $50. I mean, it's,
10, 15, 25.
25.
I'd say lower. I'd say 10, because we want to encourage people, not to discourage people.
All right, is everyone okay with $10?
I think that there is an expense for staff doing it.
25?
And, yeah, I think 25 is a fair rate.
Okay.
I believe it was the fee that we had in place before when we were, I know when I first moved in or when we got an alarm, we had to register it way back when.
All right, compromise, 25?
20.
Okay.
All right, $20.
Okay.
20?
$20.
We will do the false alarms for 6 months
6
rolling
month period?
timeframes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a question about what is the permit base fee. That is something that's always been on the books, and it's common in the building permit industry. It's a base fee for all permits, and then the permit always goes up based on the cost of the work being done. The building inspector review fee, this was one that it was handwritten and increased to $95 in handwriting. This is for when they review the plans, when the plans come in and they review the plans. One of the things we're working on with the building inspectors is their cost structure as well as their cost sharing with us. So this is one that they would be either getting the entire, we're looking at two scenarios, either where they would get this entire fee, it would go to the inspector, or this would be part of our revenue sharing with the inspectors.
Okay, go.
Just on the base fee?
Yeah, I wanted to get back to that one.
Because I think that the issue is, there's a part of the actual code, not the dollars that were removed, but there's another part in the code that says if you're gonna do repairs, I think the threshold is something like $75. If you're gonna do repairs that are over $75, then you need to have a permit. And that's where people get into a situation where they're gonna paint, I guess paint might be a bad example, but
Yeah,
they're gonna do
exactly.
some minor repair and the permit fee for that base ends up being doubling the cost of the job. So if we could put in the ordinance what the threshold would be before that gets triggered, that might solve the
And-
problem.
And what I would like is for staff to talk to our chief building inspector, because he was mentioning it also to me, that most cities have that threshold a lot higher. So to see what, I don't remember the number, and it's not fair that he's not here to verify it. To see what
You have it?
that threshold number would be before it triggers that base fee.
You give me 1 second.
All right, so let's,
I thought it was $100.
Just give me, Mayor? if you
Yes.
want to-
And I think that was probably set a long, long time ago,
That-
when $100 was a lot more than it is now.
It's $100. No permit shall be required for general maintenance or repairs which do not change the occupancy and the value of which does not exceed $100 in labor and material determined by the building official.
Like I said, that number, but that's old. And our building inspector will say
So maybe we
what's
should say
industry-wide
250
now.
now or something like that?
There becomes a life safety issue, and we can reference, in Broward County, they have administrative rules specific to the building code. And it's really about, it's not just about the fee amount. There, the fee amount, I believe, is actually 2,500, believe it or not, but it references in the administrative rules life safety. So if it's a life safety repair, you still need a permit regardless of the cost. So installing a new outlet in your house may cost you under $100, but really our code should be more specific. That's something that you would need an electrical review for, because there's a life safety or fire hazard that could be created by installing that. So I understand what you're saying, but there's still things that are going to cost under $100 that you're going to require a permit for, and people aren't going to be happy because they're just looking at the cost to cost comparison, but it's really a life safety issue.
Yeah, can we check into that a little bit further?
Because I think in that example, if it's electrical and it needs,
Right.
you know, inspector and.
But that's not what our code says.
Mr. Village Attorney?
It's, because it's a, a building official issue, you could actually still pass this resolution if you're comfortable saying that fee can be changed if the building official feels it's warranted, and you are approving whatever that number is, though. That's the one thing. But he is the chief building official, and if the manager and this commission is comfortable, then, because I'd rather not come up with another number. And
Yeah.
If this number's not working for you, then you can just approve it contingent upon the chief building official, and then the manager can send out an email
You mean change the fee schedule?
for this one issue, which is the base fee. And if there's a lack of comfort, like I said, I do believe we're going to have a resolution in a couple months, because I know there's just fees that we don't have. This is a large undertaking.
I also want to remind you that building permits are revenue for the village. And there's staff time involved in it, and it's not just the building inspectors. And as it stands now, except for our chief building official, 75% of our permit revenue goes out the door. So if this fee is decreased, it's a less revenue for the village at the same time. So
I like the idea of the village attorney. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm not looking at decreasing the permit base fee. It's just a threshold, which we don't have in here, and I think we need to have that threshold. And that's the threshold that exists now. Like you said, it's $100, is old. We need to have that threshold moved up to a higher threshold. But the base permit fee of $60, I'm okay with that one. But it's that threshold before it triggers that $60.
Any other comments?
Just unfortunately, that threshold is set forth.
In the code.
In the code.
Yeah.
it's a separate issue from this. It would be an ordinance to
that's
change that, yeah. So
That
it's
wasn't-
really the language about
Yeah.
having the building official chime in doesn't apply
All right, so
to
why don't
this.
we move forward with this schedule, and we'll have to address that
Sure.
separately.
There was a question about the sliding scale for the,
I'm sorry, that wasn't that wasn't changed in the previous
Yeah, isn't
ordinance,
this being-
deleted? No.
Isn't this being stricken?
Was it stricken in the previous ordinance?
Everything in the ordinance, that should be stricken, Maria. I think we
this
did.
shouldn't, but this isn't setting a fee, this is just a threshold.
So, okay.
Oh, okay.
That
You wanna
we were
double
blind
check?
to that.
Yeah.
in the ordinance.
We'll double check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so let's move forward with this. So what was the next item?
There was a question regarding the sliding fee for, or the escalating fee for.
The AC?
AC. That's how it's been in the code. It's bigger equipment, it's a bigger value to the village. It's an increase.
I still think it's hard to justify. You know, the inspector is going to be doing nothing different from one size unit to another size unit. You got a 2-ton unit, he's not going to do any different from a 2-ton unit to a 3-ton air conditioning unit.
Okay,
So would you like to go to the median, which is 145 as a solution?
that's fine.
That's fine.
You got that, Maria? Thank you.
All right,
The next, there was a question regarding the new fee for planning board review. It is very common in other cities when you have to go to the planning board to pay a fee. This covers the staff that's involved in preparing for the board. We do a lot of copies for the board. We do a lot of preparation. I'm working on getting staff more trained in doing some zoning review, so things go more smoothly. People are having a staff review with staff before they go to the board, so we can keep people moving through and getting work done.
So there's no, is there an application fee now?
That's what we're,
Oh, okay.
that's what
There's
we're.
no application fee now?
There's no application fee now.
I think that's reasonable.
Right, and there's staff time involved in getting to the board.
Yep.
Okay, on all building permits for exterior use, you're going in front of the board, so that means all my understanding would be every review the Planning and Zoning Board does, there's going to be a $50 fee tacked
Correct.
on to every
Right, but
single.
not every building permit issue goes to the planning board.
Exterior, if it's something exterior, it does.
Oh, exterior, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But there's village cost involved in going to the
And this
planning
this
board.
excludes painting?
Excludes paint permits
Okay.
that are on the agenda. We pay for copies, we pay for staff time getting there, we pay for overtime for staff to be at the meetings.
Okay. All right, I mean, you know, if it excludes painting, you know, exterior improvements are typically major improvements.
It could be anything. That's the reason why we're discussing about the threshold.
But give me an example of something that's not significant. A garage door, but that's significant.
Yeah. Some rotten wood on some fascia.
After lighting was an issue because I think that needed a permit. It was more than a lot of the cost of the lights.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
got to
not
be
a-
some cost recovery for staff time and preparing for the hearing. I mean, if maybe we reduce it to $25.
I was just going to say, this is something brand new, and, you know, I think we need to start off someplace, a number, but not nearly this high.
Okay.
And $25 or $20, at least that's a starting point, because now that these numbers can get changed without rewriting an ordinance, I think we need to start at a reasonable amount.
Okay, is everyone okay with 25?
I'm good with 25.
25.
Compromising today.
Okay.
Sure.
Next item.
While we're on this issue, though, it occurs to me, I know recently someone along Griffin had to have a ramp put into their house. And how do we address something like that where it's a, you know, it's not a choice. It's not a home improvement by choice. It was home
Did it go
improvement
to the
because now
board?
they require a wheelchair and a ramp to get into their house. How do we address those? Is there any exception that could be, you know, if he could be waived for when there is this kind of a hardship?
You're just talking with respect to the $25 application fee or with other permit?
Well, I understand if it requires an inspector, that's a cost to us and we have to pass that cost on, but if we could find a way to administratively, you know, waive the fee when there is such a hardship.
But you're talking about the $25 fee, right?
Yeah.
Only, okay. All right.
We can add language in that, you know, the village manager has the authority to waive fees. It would, and then like maybe some kind of requirement that the village manager notify the commission within 5 days in writing of any fees that are waived or something like that.
Yeah, I think we're going through brain damage for $25. I think we're making it too complicated, in my opinion. Is anyone else uncomfortable with the $25 across the board?
No, I'm not, like I said, it's a shame that this got sort of like put in there with that number where we never had it before, but I can understand it's the cost of doing business. And so we're down to 25, so it's the same price of paint permit.
Okay.
In other cities, that planning board fee is $150, $250, $500. So we thought 50 was a nice introduction for the village, as opposed to in the hundreds like other cities.
All right, well, I think the consensus was 25, correct?
I would have gone with 50, but 25 is okay.
Okay, we'll start with 25, we can revisit it. All right, was there other items?
Yeah, there were two sort of blanket umbrella things. One was requiring that the resolution go to a public hearing process.
Right.
And the other was to post the fee schedule at Village Hall and online where we have the means to do it.
Okay. Not a public hearing, but
It's a meeting open to the public.
Right,
It's
right.
an item open to the public. So section 3 of the resolution, we can put that right in there, and then we can have a separate section, if it's agreed to.
Okay, I think, is everyone in agreement with those two changes?
It just, I believe the reasoning was is so it couldn't be put into the consent agenda, so however the
Correct.
wording is, that it, it's got to be able to be discussed.
Okay, so everyone's in agreement with those two changes? All right. I think we got everything covered.
We got
So,
it.
Is there a motion to approve? Sure. 30 seconds?
Well, my recollection is that the fee for extra cubic yardage on your trash pile was $10, okay? I see it was $20 in here, and it's indicated as not having been changed. And could be it was changed to $20 when I wasn't looking. It's entirely possible. I just want to point out that, it's kind of counterproductive to getting people to maintain their property. The fee is $400 and something now, or whatever it is for an entire year. You can very quickly get to $200 bill for one pile, cleaning up your yard. So, I would argue for $10 a cubic yard, especially since at this point it's a transfer directly to Waste Pro.
Okay. Any comments on that item?
Well, they charge?
I'm sorry?
Is that what they charge?
Is this a pass-through?
The contract calls for them to charge what we specify, what's dictated by the village.
And is the fee currently $20?
Yes. Based on the invoice that Public Works has been using for at
It's
least
my-
3 or 4 years.
It's my recollection.
It has
it's
$20 on it.
I'd be good with 10.
Okay, and I Waste Pro, our guys weren't out there with yardsticks, and I think Waste Pro indicated at one point that they're not gonna be out there measuring exactly, so unless you grossly exceed.
Our guys were out there with the yardsticks.
Ask the.
As if it was clearly a large pile, we had to.
Right, if
charge.
you're unreasonable and exceeded by a large amount, but, all right, so is the consensus is keep it as 20 or? Okay. 20.
Oh, well.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
So
We need a
is there a
motion
motion
and
to
a-
approve?
Make a motion that we approve the resolution with the changes we've added.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Vice Mayor Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Okay. Moving on to old business, item 11A. Vice Mayor Ross.
I brought this item last month, and I felt it important that as we have reviewed every other position, village manager and staff have reviewed every other relationship in the village. This relationship is not one within their purview for review. It is only within the ability of the village commission to review it. I heeded the comments that were made at the last month's meeting and brought, following the mayor's invitation to bring it back, brought this sort of compromise so that there is a review process in place, and I attached for your reference 2 sample evaluation forms that are used in the city of Winter Haven and the city of Lakeland. I we spoke at length about it last time, so I don't want to rehash it all, but I think that it is our obligation to look at this, and I've heard the suggestions that were brought up by the residents speaking at public comment. I would rather not wait for there to be an issue to have a discussion about our satisfaction or where we want to go with our relationship with village attorney. I would rather, and I think it's a more open process if we do it regularly. If we do, maybe we don't do it every year, but we do it every 2 years, and that the commission gets input, which we ordinarily would not get from chairman of boards and committees that deal, particularly the statutory boards that deal with village attorney and get advice from village attorney, that we get the input of the manager or perhaps department heads that have an exchange and deal with the village attorney, because this is information that would not be readily available to us in making a decision about a review. So I bring to you this compromise and for your consideration and for and a couple of sample evaluation forms.
Okay, thank you. Comments?
Yeah, last meeting, last month, we gave a unanimous vote of approval for our attorney. I agree with some of the people that spoke earlier. I don't see why we're even discussing this now. Maybe sometime in the future, but I think we're wasting valuable time, and it's costing taxpayers money by paying what what we're paying for staff. While we're discussing this, that we've already said you're doing a good job. We have confidence in you. So I think this shouldn't even be on here.
Okay. Commissioner Jonas, comments?
Yeah. We're discussing this now for one or both of two reasons. Either because everybody in the world gets reviewed, and we have one position that doesn't get reviewed, and Roxy is not wrong to say that we should review everybody because everybody needs to get reviewed. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that she has some complaint that she hasn't told us about yet, and it's worth our hearing about and thinking through, and that's not illegitimate either. I haven't really talked to John about it, but my guess is he wouldn't really object to a review occasionally either. I think back to I think it was the first evaluation we had with Ana Garcia, and a number of us were chided for engaging in what was called a love fest, because we all loved her and we all said so. And that was great. That didn't mean she shouldn't be reviewed. She was reviewed, but we were all satisfied. And at that level, I really don't see what the problem is. The other issue is, among the people who said tonight that we should not review the village attorney, there was a kind of an undercurrent theme of not wanting to foster divisiveness. And I have to say, it seems to me divisive for somebody to say, well, you've made me mad, or you've hurt my feelings or something, and now you have to compensate me by engaging in the gesture of not reviewing the attorney. They really have nothing to do with each other. So I think it's fine if we review the village attorney position. I'm sure that there are two separate processes. One of them is that if any of us has an issue, we talk to John about it, and if he wants to resolve it, he will. And the other is a kind of a formal review. And again, I don't see what the big deal is.
Okay. My opinion is that we all have the ability, if we see an issue with the village attorney, to meet with him privately and discuss that issue. And if the issue is not addressed, we have the ability to bring that item to the commission as a whole to discuss it. I think it's a disservice to sort of use one of these rating sheets and rate the attorney from 1 to 5. I'm not a fan of these types of reviews, so I would prefer to leave it less strict and sort of have just a casual conversation with him if needed. So in a sense, there will be a review process if you want it. And if you have no reason to discuss any issue with him, then you don't have to do it. But if you do have an issue, it's available to you, and then you can always bring it to the commission for discussion. So that's my opinion.
If I may
Sure,
respond
sure.
on two of those issues. Commissioner Anderson made reference to the vote of confidence that was taken last month, and I voted with everyone in support of a vote of confidence. But that vote was taken very much as a feel-good gesture, and we didn't have any background or any information with which to engage in that vote. I'm happy to say, yes, we have a good relationship, very reputable village attorney. But without asking the questions, we don't really know what the answer is. So without examining it and without getting the input from those people that do work closer with the attorney than many of us do, we won't really know what the answer is. And as far as having a one-on-one exchange with the attorney without having it, without using a form or without having an actual record, then that's not truly a transparent process. Those are conversations that happen one-on-one, not in the public eye, not even, documented in the public record. I recognize that, of course, this is a vote of a majority of the commission, and as I have brought other items that people have felt uncomfortable talking about, I thought it was my obligation to bring this forward. I was invited to bring it back at the last meeting as a review process, and so I did the homework and I brought it back as a review process. And I certainly hope that there are not any ill feelings about it, because it wasn't my intention to bring discomfort or to break a relationship, but I still felt, and I still feel today, that it is our obligation to do it.
No, and listen, I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish, but I just think that these types of forms are not really helpful to anyone. I think so maybe perhaps we just have more of a narrative type form that if you wanted to submit, you can submit it. But if we're, if at the end of the year, if I have no issue with John, I don't feel the need to submit that form. I shouldn't have to. So I'm okay with establishing a narrative type form that if you want to submit on a yearly basis and have a conversation with him, you can do that. Is that a
Dave,
compromise? Yeah.
Do you feel the same way about the manager position? And if you don't, why don't you?
The same process?
Yeah, do you feel that we shouldn't really have to evaluate the manager either? If we want to make a comment in writing, we can. Otherwise, we just let it go?
No, I feel that if we have an issue with the manager, we can discuss it with her, and if we want to put it in writing, we can put it in writing. I just don't see the need for a yearly review with an employee at that level.
But we have one with the
I
manager.
understand that.
It's in her contract that
Do you think we
I
shouldn't?
understand that.
Do you think we should remove that?
I don't think it's necessary to remove it at this point. It was negotiated. But the issue that we're here now is to discuss as the attorney. And I'm okay. I understand what you're trying to do, and I just think that the checklist form is not really helpful to anyone. So if you wanted to do some type of narrative type form, I'm okay with, but it also should be on a voluntary basis. Yes.
Also, too, I think, what is being suggested is going a little too deep. Having that person also be reviewed by the manager, reviewed by board members. Why is our attorney being singled out that he's got to be evaluated by so many different people when our manager has interaction with the board members too? But we don't ask for the manager to be reviewed by all these other ones. I think we're just going way overboard. Also, too, it's interesting. I'd like to see what is our surrounding cities. How do they do it? That we're not talking about attorneys that they have as staff attorneys. I'm talking about the cities that do not have staff attorneys locally. How are they doing it? Are they doing that? Are they reviewing them?
Vice Mayor Ross, did you look into any other cities in Miami-Dade County and Broward County, cities closer to us?
I can't, my target, when I looked at the process, was to find smaller communities similar to us, and whatever process works at City of Miami, where they have 20 staff, really,
No,
city
understood,
attorneys,
understood.
wouldn't really fit our process here.
Okay. I was thinking Miami Shores, El Portal.
I did not look at those, no.
All right, so I think that the consensus, Commissioner Anderson and I think are not comfortable with what's,
Any review process.
other than what I outlined.
So are you suggesting that I should recraft what would be used as an evaluation?
A voluntary evaluation, sure.
But either we make it part of our process or we don't make it part of our process. I don't think that we can have just a gray area and then the one commissioner who decides to complete a form, how is that going to be submitted and shared with the other commissioners? Do you see where I'm going? It's we either have to decide to have a process or say no, we're not going to examine this anymore.
Yeah, I don't know that that's an issue. I mean, we'll have a form available to you that provides it's a narrative, so you can submit it to, you can meet with the attorney at the end of the year. You can submit it in writing if you want. It becomes a public record. You meet with them, and then if you deem it appropriate, you can bring it before the commission if your issues aren't resolved. I think that works well.
Right, and like I said, we have two cities I just named, Miami Shores and El Portal. What are they doing? They may be doing it that way the mayor's talking about.
Are you at all comfortable with that?
It sounds to me like we're not really doing anything. So
Okay.
if that's what majority, if we're 2 and 2, sounds like. And
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we'll just,
it's done.
we'll end it there. All right.
Mayor, can I
Yes.
just say one thing? During public comments, there was a suggestion made that perhaps the manager had an issue with the attorney. I also received a phone call from a commissioner early on when this subject came up asking me if I did. And I just want to go on record that I don't. We work very well together. I've worked very hard over the last 8-9 months to build a very cohesive team. And when there have been hiccups or anything, and I think that was maybe the first week, there's no issues here, and I just want to be clear because I don't think that's fair. The word divisiveness has been thrown around throughout public comments, and I would not want the attorney or my staff to think there's any divisiveness amongst the administration. We have a really hard-working team, and everyone works together.
Great, no, thank you. And I think what I'm hearing, and I don't think it's Vice Mayor Ross's issue, is not so much with Attorney Hearn. You just wanted to see a process put in place. As far as I know, I think we all
I would
are
like
grateful
to see,
and happy with our village attorney.
I had wanted to see a process put in place because without one, we are left with, the only way to address it would be in an adversarial situation when something does occur.
I know,
And then it becomes, just a much more difficult conversation.
But as we sit here today, I think we're all comfortable with our village attorney and pleased with his job performance, as far as I know.
But Dave, in a way, you're sort of illustrating the problem. You're saying, as far as I know, Rox probably just did this categorically. The fact is, we don't know, because there's no form in which he would tell us.
That's up to each individual commissioner who works directly with him to raise an issue if they have one.
That's true, but how are the rest of us going to know? I mean, in the old days, Chuck and Rox and I would be out at dinner, and she'd tell me everything she thinks. That doesn't happen anymore. If she has a problem with John, I don't know about it.
But
well, I can respond that I've spoken with the vice mayor, and I don't believe we have a problem. And it can be brought up at a meeting, or the vice mayor and I can speak, but I don't feel we have a problem. And I had a conversation with her a couple of months ago, and I don't like the process, and I think it's not comparing apples to apples. But I respect her thought process.
And also, too, it doesn't necessarily, would have to be an adversarial position before it can be brought up, because just like what the mayor was saying, if let's say, if I was concerned with something about the way our attorney was handling something, I'd talk to the attorney. If I found that he was non-responsive and didn't want to go ahead and change or work for a change, then I guess automatically we are on a adversarial, and definitely I would bring that farther forward.
Okay.
So I mean, I just don't see that it would start right off that way.
Alrighty. Item 12B was pulled.
12A?
12A.
I'm sorry, 12A.
The $1 million question.
Madam Manager, 12A.
So we have been working very closely with the architectural firm who is leading the way of the final design of the Village Hall Annex and Public Safety building. We hope to have final plans in our hands in about 2 to 3 weeks, and we would like to go out to bid at that time with the complete construction documents. In your backup, for illustrative purposes only, is the elevations and floor plans of those buildings. They are continuing to work on the structural plans as we speak, but we wanted to show you the progress of the building. We took into consideration all the feedback we received from our Saturday workshop, and we've been working with the police chief, for example, to make sure that the police department side is designed appropriately for a police operation. The invitation to bid package includes all of the required bid documents as well as the proposed contract. The purpose of this is to give the proposed bidders a clear understanding of what our expectations are, so that when the time comes to go to contract, there's very little negotiation and back and forth, and it will keep us moving forward on the aggressive timeline that's been set by the state. So we're seeking permission from the commission tonight to go out to bid once we have the construction documents in hand. That would allow us, if the plans are let before the November commission meeting, that will allow us to release the bid prior to the November meeting. We're still reviewing the contract and reviewing the bid documents and tweaking it, getting information as we go, but you have, for the most part, the structure in front of you. Once the bid process is complete, we'll come back to the commission with a recommendation of a prospective contractor or perhaps a couple contractors to present. You never know until you get through the process. And the commission ultimately will have to approve the selection of the contractor and that contract. We're hoping for the December meeting, if not a special meeting later on in December, depending on how the bid process shakes out.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I've got just two questions. One is on the with the floor plan. If we can go back to that elevation.
It's loaded, so go ahead.
This is
Okay. On the floor plan, manager.
Yeah, good
Yes.
point.
Okay, on that floor plan, I'm glad to see we have a public restroom in that floor plan, but it appears that public restroom is on the north side of the building, where people to use it are going to have to walk around. If there's any activity going on, they're going to have to walk around the building to have access to it. Is there a reason it was put on that side of the building versus the south side?
Because there will be a sidewalk connecting it into the back of the historic log cabin, and that will be an accessible bathroom and an overflow bathroom for events taking place at the log cabin.
But you couldn't have
And-
you couldn't have reversed it to have it on the south side if there's any events going out in the future, where they call Biscayne Commons area, were to be around that front of the building, of having that just turned around backwards from
But
the way it is.
it is facing the log cabin.
No, the restroom is facing north. It's right in the
No,
middle of the building.
I understand. It's diagonal across from the log cabin.
Well, see, I'm just thinking if you have any events outside.
in the field,
Right.
in the
When
open
that-
field?
When that finally gets changed into what they call Biscayne Commons area, or whatever you want to call it, so it's a more of an open, user-friendly area, to go there, you're going to have to walk around the building.
Okay.
Is there, because you have both sides of the building has almost the same look. I was just wondering, is there a reason it was on that side versus the other side?
Because I think that the issue is that we're not going to have a handicap fully accessible bathroom in the log cabin, so it's to sort of tie it to the log cabin and have it closer to that.
Correct,
as
and the
opposed
south
to-
side of the police department is being used as an entrance for the police officers. The parking of the police cars will be on the south side for now, whereas the public parking will be on the north side. That's more of a secured area on the south side, staff parking and those type of things. Our intention is it's for those who are using the log cabin as well as those who are using Village Hall or the police department, that there's a public restroom that's accessible to them, but they do not have to enter the secure areas.
No, it makes sense. That's what I'm saying. It's nice to see that there's something on the outside. Okay, the other thing is, it's probably in here on the contract, but there's so many pages, I may have overlooked this. I didn't see anything of when they have to have it finished and any penalties.
Yeah, throughout the contract, it says it twice. It always says it in two different ways at the same time. It says 210 days, no later than June 30th, 2015.
And
It's
there's
throughout the
penalties?
contract.
And there's penalties in there?
There's liquidated damages between completion and between non-completion and substantial completion. It's $500 per day for liquidated damages, and then between substantial completion and final completion, it's $100 a day for liquidated damages.
Okay.
Anything
That was-
else?
that was
Okay. Comments, other comments?
Yeah, Heidi and I sat and reviewed and we laughed about the portion that is the bid evaluation process was a little mushed in the memo, I think, so could you clarify that for us?
Sure, I forgot a participle.
We had a good laugh about it.
Sure, let me read the paragraph as it should read, and you can definitely help me with my grammar. And what I had told the vice mayor was I had written this paragraph. It's on page 2 of the memo, halfway down right after F price. I had rewritten this paragraph about 3 or 4 times to make it as inclusive as possible, and in doing the delete and backspace and insert and cutting and all of that, I left out a word. So it misreads. A recommendation will be made by the village manager. A recommendation will be made to the village manager. That the word "to" is missing there. By a selection committee comprised of individuals that may include village staff, industry professionals, and resident representation. Upon review and concurrence of the recommendation from the committee by the village manager, the manager will make a recommendation to the village commission. So the idea is no different than what we did for the sanitation process. We put together a review committee that included staff, industry professionals. In that case, it was a village manager who had outsourced sanitation, and a resident on that committee. And they made a recommendation to the village manager, and I in turn reviewed that recommendation, and once I was comfortable with that recommendation, I brought it to the commission. So it's the same idea. So I'm missing a "to" in the first sentence and a recommendation by the committee in the second line.
Alrighty. Anything else?
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Lights green from me.
Okay. All right. Consensus? We have
All
no
in
comments?
favor?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
This is pretty exciting, if I do say so myself.
No, thank you for, it's a long
This is good
document.
stuff.
I'm going to pull item 12C, and can we put that on the next
Sure.
meeting agenda? So 12D, Vice Mayor Ross.
Oh, I forgot about that. Sorry. I was approached by a former resident who works with the Children's Trust on their campaign to support early learning and literacy, reading and literacy initiatives. The Children's Trust has a campaign called Read to Learn, And what they do is that they host sort of a shelf of books that could be used by children in the community, actually given to the children in the community. So they're looking for us to host such a shelf. And of course, we already have sort of a lending library here that's pretty well established. But my thought was twofold with this piece is that we can promote the Children's Trust Initiative through our own drive and also bring more exposure to the library that's here and let it be further known in the community that we have such a thing for children and adults. So what I'm asking is that we engage in sort of a book drive to help give donations to feed into the Children's Trust and also to replenish and refresh our selection of books here. I'm not sure how the library is running now, if it's just an honor system lending library, which was initially the thought, but perhaps we can start thinking about it not just being lending, but actually giving books out to the kids if they, feel comfortable want to take them home and review them, then we don't chase after them, which I don't think we do right now, do we? No, good. So that's the idea, is to promote the Children's Trust Initiative and to also bring more exposure to our library.
Okay, thank you for bringing that forward. Any comments? Sounds like a good idea.
And we'll work with the Children's Trust and the Vice Mayor to make sure we're
Perfect.
clearly a part of the program.
Maybe we could put something on a website?
Sure. Sure, and we can do it on the Facebook page for the Recreation Department as well.
Okay, any items for next meeting agenda? You're going to put 12C, my item.
12B, 12C.
Does Commissioner Watts want 12B revived, or? Oh, you can ask her.
We'll confirm.
Okay.
Do you have the charter stuff? The Charter Review Committee is supposed to be selected 24 months prior to the November 2016 election, and believe it or not, that is next month. So we will be placing that on the agenda. Per the ordinance, each commissioner will select one representative on that Charter Review Committee, and then there will be 2 additional members of the Charter Review Committee that are selected through a majority consensus of the commission. So we will be reaching out to you over the next month regarding your selection for the committee, so we can put that on the agenda, and we will also be soliciting names for the 2 at-large members. Maria has just handed out to you the ordinance that outlines the committee, so it can help you in your selection. And if you have any comments, please let us know.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question for our attorney. On this particular committee, can somebody on another committee also be on that one?
Yes, it's ad hoc. They can be on it.
Right, we do have an exemption for the ad hoc. That's how we would treat it.
So this would be
Advisory
considered
board.
as an ad hoc committee?
It's an advisory board.
Yep. We can look at it that way, and I'll double check that ordinance.
Okay.
And I'll email everybody out, BCC.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other items for next meeting?
Yes.
All right.
I attended a meeting of the foundation and listened to some of their concerns, and I think particularly with what we're doing with Village Hall restoration and the annex building, that it's important that we sort of pool resources and prioritize our collective goals. So I'd like to have a joint meeting of the foundation and the commission to help with the fundraising aspects and things that we would like to accomplish.
Okay, so we'll add that.
Would you like us to just schedule
it?
it? We
Yeah.
can do a workshop at 6:30 before the meeting if you'd like.
That would be great.
Okay.
I
Between
don't
the
think
two.
we need to take a vote on it?
No.
Yeah, okay.
At 6:30?
All right, any other items? Nothing else? Okay. All right, village manager report, I guess the bathroom, annexation, and, well,
Annexation, I've been speaking with our representation. They've had some meetings with county staff, and tomorrow I'm meeting with them in the morning to discuss the mobilization of the outreach to the annexation area. They have some good contacts at the county regarding moving forward with our application. So as soon as we can get the petition complete, it looks like we'll be continuing on in the process. They're also, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you ask them to think about doing, or to do a weekly email update to the commission as to what they accomplished and what?
That sounds great. They did confirm with county staff that we are held to the 283 electors that are in the annexation area, so we do have to complete the petition. And they did indicate to me that they left the meeting with county staff, that they had a good sense of support from the staff on our application moving forward. So we hope to move forward with that. I was unable to attend that meeting because we were holding a luncheon for employees at that time, but they reported back to me. The log cabin restoration in an annex building, like I said, we're getting ready to go out to bid. Regarding the building inspectors, if you recall when our auditors did their presentation to us, one of the findings over the last couple years was that we did not have contracts in place with our building inspectors. We've been working with the inspectors on this issue, and 2 of our inspectors are interested in entering into contract with us, understanding one of the requirements of the contract is for them to carry professional liability insurance. That's both our chief building official as well as our plumbing inspector. We have a sense from our electrical inspector and our mechanical inspector that they're not willing or able to get the liability insurance that would be required of the contract. I'd like to wrap this issue up. I would hate for this to be another finding in our audit as of right now, because September 30th has passed. It will be a finding in last year's audit, but I'm hoping to put the issue to rest. So I guess we need to have some kind of conversation about we don't have the ability through our insurance provider, FMIT, to take on that professional liability insurance for them because they are private contractors. So that's not an option that's on the table. But so how do we proceed? We have 2 of the 4 willing to proceed with us. There's 2 options that we can do. We can go out and find 2 individuals to complete that foursome, or we can go back and look at perhaps going a different route with privatizing with a different group of people, a company, or something. We're already privatized with these individuals, so I just wanted to bring this forward to the commission. I know there's been some talking from the inspectors with some of the members of the commission, but this really just comes down to their ability and willingness to get the professional liability insurance. We have the contracts. It's a contract I brought forward. I shared with the village attorney. He signed off on it, and you know, the contracts are ready. We want to put them on the November agenda, but we have 2 out of the 4, and we can't be incomplete.
This has been going on for quite some time. We've had these contracts.
Yeah.
And my sense is to give them a deadline to comply with it, and if they don't, then we should pursue.
And that deadline was September 30th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, we should start looking for 2 other individuals to fill those 2 spots. I don't think we should. If you're implying maybe cap as or a cap type company would be an option, but I would prefer to keep the 2 that are willing to provide the insurance as part of our team, and then just find the 2 other individuals to fill those 2 spots. That makes sense. Any other comments?
No, I confirm.
Do you?
Unless we run into a wall that we can't find somebody else, then I think we have no choice. Then we have to go to an outside company.
Right. Okay.
Do you already have some sense of whether there are people interested in the position?
I don't have a sense of that. I have not been contacted, nor have I reached out. I've tried to respect these individuals throughout the process because they thought this was about something else. So I have not even put my feelers out there. Most of the inspectors I know work for those companies.
Maybe you can check the building official, see if he has recommendations. Okay.
And then finally, the bathroom renovations. I just wanted to give you an update. As we've gone through the process, we have followed the purchasing policy. When we needed 3 bids because of thresholds and those type of things, we have gotten them. The purchasing, and I've been working with the village attorney on this issue, the purchasing policy puts my spending cap without coming to the commission at $10,000. And there's 2 different components of this project. There's the contractor services, the labor, and then there's the materials. The village has purchased the materials because we're able to purchase them tax-free and do the selection of those materials. As far as the building supplies go and the materials, we've spent $3,169 so far. As far as the contractor's original bid, it was $5,300, plus there's an additional $1,500 that's been proposed to us to fix the drywall, which causes some of the waviness in the walls in the bathroom. Combined, we're getting close to that 10,000, but really these have been treated as 2 separate purchasing expeditions throughout. But I wanted to have that conversation with the commission so that there was never any question as we completed the project. We most likely are going to have to buy some new materials. As much as we'd like to believe that they can save the tile, we have to be realistic that that's not going to happen.
And just to follow up on that, we had a good conversation about it, looked at the details, and the purchasing process was followed because the entire actual project was going to be under 10,000. And importantly, although if you added them up today, they'd be over 10,000, the actual materials were not bought through the contractor. And even if that had happened, it does happen sometimes where you're well under, and because of something that happens that you were not expecting, you're over. And what you would do is simply go to the commission, because it's not realistic, even if it was a different case I'm describing, to go ahead and now do a separate RFP, because you already have somebody, your horse is in full stream here. So just wanted to let you know. So actually, I think actually most of the purchases were through Home Depot, for example, of the materials, and this individual's still well under $10,000. So from a purchasing point of view, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about that issue. I'm more concerned about the fact that we have to buy new materials and the sole reason we're buying new materials is because the job wasn't done properly to begin with, and that's no fault of our own. Have we discussed with the contractor whether they would pay for the materials?
We pushed and pushed and pushed. We were able to get the work redone for free without with the drywall as an aside. The material, I can go back and ask again, but we originally pushed and pushed and pushed, and it did not end well with it in our favor.
Yep.
I have a great concern. Let's say if we went ahead and bought the material and they did the job, what's the guarantee that we're not going to end up with the same mess that we have now? And then also, too, we need to make sure we have somebody overseeing this, because we should not have had what we have. And if the contractor didn't know the drywall was wavy, is telling me, I'm really, really concerned about them redoing this. I mean, if they can't tell that they couldn't do the job.
Apparently, they told a member of the staff the issue of the drywall, and they were told by that staff member to proceed. We have dealt with that administratively, that conversation. We've put in place, Christian is now on board, we've put in place clearly to the contractor how change orders and the chain of communication that goes. Someone thought that they were doing us a favor by avoiding an additional cost, but unfortunately that was not the right decision. And we found all of this out after the fact. And I have pictures, I shared them with the commission of the work in progress, and everything was going fine, and it wasn't until the grout that everything didn't set right. So
Yeah,
we have our lessons learned on our side.
And I'm not an expert, but I don't know that it was just the drywall causing the issue and the grout. I mean, there was issues from the sinks being at two different
Right,
levels
workmanship,
and crooked.
yeah,
And
correct.
I mean, there are many issues. Any other comments?
I'd like to see it fixed.
And
And we can speculate about what happened and how we got there, and certainly lessons learned are of value, but we need to go forward and fix it.
Correct.
Because we know what this project is, why don't we make an exception and just authorize the manager to spend whatever's necessary and get it fixed? So it doesn't have to come back every time $10,000 gets triggered.
There's $4,000 in the budget, so, I mean, I don't expect us to spend that, but we would never go over the budgeted amount without coming back.
again, my issue was not that. It was issue of having to expend money for new materials. But, it is, at this point, it's going to cost more money to go out and hire somebody else new.
But, and I agree, but my concern is if we had poor workmanship, which obviously we did, what's
Well,
what's
he's
stopping
going
that?
to, they're going to do it until they get it right. We're not going to pay him a dime.
Except for we keep expending for
Oh.
materials. But I mean, this is something we don't know. But like you say, I'm really concerned about the workmanship.
All right, well, I think at this point, we have to just deal with it. I think it's going to cost too much money to go forward and find somebody else, so. All right?
Just hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're doing the job right.
Yeah. Okay.
I have one last item. It came up again in public comments. When we do proclamations and those type of things for employees, we check with them first. And we learned that the hard way. Back in, I think, January, we did one, February, we did one for a couple employees, and the employee chose not to show up because they were uncomfortable with it. When our recreation director left, we did a proclamation for him, and we checked with him beforehand, and he loves the spotlight. We know him well, and he was here with FaceTiming his parents in California, because that's how he is. And when our assistant to the village manager left, he, as you all know, is a little more shy and doesn't like to be, so we didn't do it for him. And just following that tradition that we kind of put in place after we were left holding the bag one time, we asked our departing sanitation employees, and they were uncomfortable with doing one. I think all of the staff, and I said this at the staff going away party, all of the staff, and I'm not talking about myself here, I'm talking about the staff, have acted with integrity throughout this entire process. They have worked with these individuals for many, many years. They're friends. It was hard on everybody. And I just don't want the staff to feel like there were ill feelings from any corner of the commission or the administration on how we were treating our employees. While there were not severance packages offered through the budget process, there were payouts that were given, and that is private, and that's per contract. And it's not something that it's my style to go and blast from the rooftops of how we take care of our employees. I'm proud of how I take care of my employees, and I'm going to continue down that track. But I just need for it to stop with the accusations of how we're treating our employees. It's not good to the workforce. We've got an amazing team in place right now. A team, like I said the other day at the staff luncheon, that hugs and kisses each other, all in appropriate ways, Mr. Attorney.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But it's really a team that's come together in my short time here, and I'm very proud of my contribution to building that team. And we got to keep, just like y'all have been talking about moving forward, we have to keep moving forward. It's unfortunate what happened, but don't forget, it was the village staff And by that, I mean our finance director, our village clerk, our former assistant to the village manager, who sat down and found the money to include some of those employees in our budget going forward. It was the village staff that fought for those employees to stay on. We couldn't afford everything, but we did really well with what we could. And I think those are the things that should be highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager, for clearing that up. And I think it all goes towards the idea that we need to move forward together. And, you know, it's wonderful that people ask questions and people disagree. But I think the problem is that when you get up there, and whether it's in public comment or private conversations with staff, is that you make accusations without knowing the facts. And so I think, again, questions are okay, but it's the way that you present yourself or present the issue, and it comes across as more of an accusation, and oftentimes, as it was just demonstrated, the person was wrong. So going forward, I would hope that we have open discussion and less accusations. So, all right, anything else? Announcements.
No, the village attorney.
Village attorney, anything?
14B.
Mayor, I was going to tell you,
Dave?
after
Rosemary.
Heidi's visit to North Miami, we are following up with the city attorney in North Miami. They may actually want to put something in writing, and what they call a contract. And
They call an MOU or
yeah,
something.
we'll call whatever it is, but we just want to outline our rights, and they've seemed to be thawing on that, so that's
okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Rosemary, would you like to say something?
Yes.
You want to come up, or?
20 cent funds to the Biscayne Park. I don't need a
All right, all right.
How much money was collected to the Biscayne Park Foundation for the sanitation work?
I don't know. No, we don't know.
Checks went straight to the foundation.
We didn't put it in our account. We just put it in an envelope.
You know how much they collected?
No. We'll reach out to them, and I will reach out to them, and I'll try to include it in my weekly update. But all we did is just kept putting the money and checks in an envelope at Mylan's desk. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of it came in envelopes, and we didn't even know it was inside. We just collected it, and they couldn't look.
No, that's how we are.
All right. Announcements?
Tomorrow, Wednesday, October 8th, is our Public Art Advisory Board at 6 p.m. Then on Thursday, October 9th, we have our official sculpture unveiling starting at 5:30 p.m. We'll meet at Founders Park, or it's also called Griffin Park, on 115th and 6th Avenue, and then walk over to Village Hall. Light refreshments will be served. On Monday, October 13th, is Columbus Day. All village departments are closed. Tuesday, October 14th, is Code Compliance Board at 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 14th, is the Biscayne Park Foundation at 7 p.m. Wednesday, October 15th, is Parks and Parkway Advisory Board at 6 p.m. Sorry, that was changed to the 29th. Thank you, Dan. Wednesday, October 15th, is Code Review Board at 7 p.m. Monday, October 20th, is P&Z at 6:30 p.m. Monday, October 20th, is Ecology Board at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, October 28th, is the Recreation Advisory Board at 7 p.m. On Friday, October 31st, the Halloween Funhouse begins at 4 p.m. here at the Rec Center. Monday, November 3rd, is the Planning and Zoning Board at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, November 4th, is our general election. Polls open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. here at the Ed Burke Center. And Wednesday, November 5th, is Code Review Board at 7 p.m. And our next regular commission meeting is Thursday. That's Thursday, November 6th, 2014 at 7 p.m.
Yes.
I got one question I'd like to ask. It's either going to be our clerk or the manager. I keep hearing reference to Founders Park, and I see that on literature too. It's confusing people because how did that come about? Because it's always been Griffin Park, and the plaque over there says Griffin Park, and it's always been called Griffin Park.
I've heard both. So
I've never heard that before. So it's just all of a sudden I'm finding Founders Park on a lot of the literature and stuff. It's sort of
What's that? I'm sorry. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. I believe the monument, did you go and check, Shalisa? Did you go check? The monument says Founders Park? Or?
no, it says Griffin
Yeah.
Park.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go check. But it was clarified in the email blast that went out after we saw the comment on Facebook.
Section to change all that.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.